Please don't spoil the movie.
by adding your own soundtrack. And we're live.
What's poppin'?
Yeah, I can hear you. I tested everything before we started.
Oh, wonderful.
Getting it
Wonderful.
down pat. Yeah. Totes my goats. How are you, lovely?
I'm doing wonderful, darling. How are you?
I'm good.
Just woke up from a brisk nap.
a little nappy.
A little napping up.
An afternoon.
In the sweet evening.
Sweet evening. We do British accents pretty often here at Please. Oh, I always forget that new thing we're doing.
Yeah, I don't have a name for you today.
You can find one in 5 seconds. I am. Wonderful.
You can find one in 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, look at that. You don't have a name.
I have one right
look
now.
Look how ill-prepared you are.
I just came up with a name.
Did you bring that vodka in here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that my vodka or did you bring that
I was like, where did that come from?
Let's see. Name a movie that I just saw. What movie did I watch today? Oh,
Ooh, I got one. My name, while we wait on you, is Wednesday Addams.
That's so hot right now.
She's so hot right now. That Hansel. He's so hot right now.
This is not a good one. Okay. I'm just going to do one that we already did. And I am...
Not one you've already done.
Oh, no. Like a movie we've done. Oh. Elizabeth James.
Is that from The Parent Trap?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And welcome back to Please Don't Spoil the Movie.
All right.
Before we begin, I do want to say, don't forget to rate, subscribe, tell your friends, leave a review,
comment.
Download the episode. That helps a lot.
Even if it's a mean comment, the comments still help.
I can't handle the meanness. So if you just want to leave a 1-star and don't leave a comment, sure.
Hey, if you're trolling us, that means you're talking about us, baby.
Right.
We're doing something good here.
Okay. That's one way. All publicity is good publicity.
That's right, darling. And don't you forget it.
Happy late Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving just passed.
Yes, it's the holiday times. The most wonderful time of the year.
I actually hate this time.
I enjoy this time of the year for 2 reasons. One, the breaks.
Time off, right.
And 2, the movies, of course.
Oh.
The holiday films. The Home Alones, the How the Rich Stole Christmas, the A Christmas Story, the A Christmas Carol.
Christmas with the Cranks.
Christmas with the Cranks. 4 Christmases.
What's the Adam Sandler one?
8 Crazy Nights.
8 Crazy Nights. Love it.
The Christmas movies are just fantastic. I don't know why there is no Thanksgiving movies.
There are some. It's not that hot right now.
It's never been hot.
Yeah.
I don't know one Thanksgiving Day movie.
Just like if you do a Thanksgiving movie, might as well do a Christmas movie.
I disagree. There's enough Christmas movies and not enough Thanksgiving movies, so there's enough. Oh,
well, I think the point of a Christmas movie is like people are like everyone's supposed to go crazy, like with a family, and then the mood of Christmas is supposed to bring you together. I don't think the mood of Thanksgiving doesn't happen.
But it's only that way because that's how the media has made it that way.
Yeah.
How capitalism has capitalized on Christmas. You could very well do the same thing with Thanksgiving, but no one has decided to do that.
Right. I was literally about to say Kristen Stewart just made a Thanksgiving movie, but it was Christmas for sure.
See, there you go. Look at that.
It's just not. It's not in right now. It's not hot.
Thanksgiving just doesn't get enough love.
It's all right.
I'm upset about it.
You mean, is it, what do you call it? Native American Heritage Day.
Oh, maybe that's why. Maybe it shouldn't give.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's not so hot right now.
Maybe it shouldn't get as much love then.
It's rebranding.
Forgot about the mass genocide. And the disease spreading. And the colonization.
Stolen land, man.
That goes along with Thanksgiving. Excuse me. Forgive me.
So how was your Thanksgiving?
It was cool. I had the same Thanksgiving as you.
Oh, so. Really? Forgot.
Yeah.
That's my quick.
Because we're related.
Yeah. But cool.
Are you binging? Or are you watching anything?
Am I binging or am I watching anything? No, you're watching Wednesday. How is that going?
Yeah. I am only on the second episode. No. I like it. I think the girl who plays Wednesday does a fantastic job.
Okay, does she?
Yes, I think she is doing a great job at that role. But I will say, watching the show, I'm like, I feel a little bit too old for this. Like, it's giving a little childish, a little elementary.
It's giving Disney Channel?
Not Disney Channel. It's giving a Netflix show that is for a 15-year-old, 16-year-old to watch. And at the ripe old age of 27,
you think you're running out. Oh, that's interesting.
Like, ooh, I'm too old for this. Not that much, but it's just like a little thought in the back of my head. Like, have you ever watched the series of Unfortunate Events show that was on Netflix?
Oh, yeah, I did.
That kind of is, it's a little bit more darker and a little bit more adult than that, but that's what I think of when I watch it.
I got sick of that show.
Yeah.
God, I was like, this is annoying.
They never win.
They never win.
I never finished the ending. So.
It's a life. It's like not a movie ending. It's like, yeah, this is life ending. This is how.
Oh, really? That's how the show ended?
It's not like they meet their parents again or
the parents died.
Right. Or like they just have each other.
Oh.
They just like continue to go. I don't know. It's just like not like it wasn't.
Did they ever get rid of what's his face?
Yeah, he does die.
Oh.
But it's just not like, I don't know. Right, and like I feel like they didn't answer my questions, and they kept bringing up all these people in the club and all that. I'm like, I feel like my answers were never, my questions were never answered.
Well, I wonder how the series ends. I guess the series ends like that.
I'm imagine that it ends very similar.
Ooh,
but that stuff was annoying because every time they got close to something happiness,
just the devil reeled them back in.
I did watch while I was at work, while I was working from home, I was watching Fat Camp.
I never heard of it.
Is it called Fat Camp?
That's the name of it?
Fat Camp.
Are you talking about Heavyweights?
Oh, Heavyweights. They go to Fat Camp. Thank you. Like, Fat Camp.
She's like, I watch Fat Camp. I'm like, is that a reality show?
Sorry. I probably was one. Wasn't it? I feel like I kind of watched that. Anyway, I watched Heavyweights today.
Great.
Classic.
Great Disney film.
Just a lovely movie.
Just 5 stars.
5 stars. Funny. Drama.
One of you might be a CEO. One of you might be a promising politician. One of you, a rapper. And then they point to Kenan Thompson. I was like, oh my God, this is so racist.
I missed that one.
It's like when he first comes and he's like listing all of these, illustrious careers, like a lawyer, a doctor.
Right.
And they're like going down the line, showing all the white kids. And then he gets to Kenan Thompson and he said, a rapper. I was like, this is how y'all like to do us? Yeah.
Ooh, that movie is hilarious. Jesus. It's like, it's giving High School Musical. No. Stick to the status quo when they gave the black boy the basketball. That Corbin Blue, but the other one who played basketball, and they was like, I want to do something else, and he was like, they were like, here's the basketball, sir.
I'm not sure how that relates to Heavyweights
because they were putting him in a box. They were like, black boy.
You're talking about the rapper scene. Oh.
Black boy, you would be a basketball player. This black boy, you would be a rapper.
Yes, dribble that ball and rap that song.
Rap that song. Anything else? Let's see.
That's about it. I did recently watch Where the Crawdads Sing.
Talk about that.
So how I stumbled upon this film, I was going to Seattle or Sacramento, one of those places for work, and on the plane, they have the in-flight movies or whatever.
Right.
The trailer for that movie, like if you didn't select a movie, like that trailer was just playing and playing and playing and playing and playing, and I was like, okay, what's this movie about? So I was like, at some point I'm gonna have to watch it. But then it popped up on Netflix because it's on Netflix now, and me and Mom watched it. It was really good. It's about this girl who lives in like the marshes of like North Carolina. I think it should have been set in Louisiana, or whatever.
Right?
But she lives in like the marshland of like North Carolina or whatever. And she was abandoned when she was a child, so she's grown up and lived on her own. So she's very isolated and alone. And somebody who she knows turns up missing. Ooh. And because she's so like, mysterious and recluse and whatever, they accuse her of the murder.
Oh, that's so fun. That's not what I thought it was going to be about. Okay.
Yeah, what did you think?
I thought it was more like a love story.
Oh no, there's a love aspect to it.
But yeah, I thought it was mainly like love.
Yeah.
You said murder, now you got my attention.
It's love and murder.
My favorite things.
The best combination ever.
Love by itself, meh. Murder, yes.
Yeah, so
those
the guy,
two together.
The guy who dies is somebody who she had a relationship with.
Oh, I didn't think she did it. Don't tell me anything. Ooh, and it's like a murder mystery. Like we're trying to figure out who did it.
Yeah, so the movie already starts off with her like they find the dude's body. Uh-huh. They try to figure out who it is. Like the first 20 minutes, she's already booked and jailed for the day in crime. And then the whole movie is kind of like how she became alone.
Okay.
How she met the guy who ended up dying.
Oh, okay.
It's just kind of like leads up. Uh-huh. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's a good movie. I liked it.
Yeah. 10 out of 10?
I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10 just because I think there's some things we could have done better. I won't dive in because that will spoil the movie. Podcast title. Right. But yeah, I think some things could have been tweaked a little bit better.
Yeah.
I give it a 7.5, 7.9.
I wonder how it lines up with the book because it was a popular book.
Oh yeah, it is a novel.
It's a hit wonder book.
Yeah.
Which they, back in the day, I feel like they used to take time to find a book and turn it into a movie.
Right.
That book got popular, like, I don't know, maybe like a year ago.
I'm about to say, the book came out in 2018.
2018? Okay, that's a little further. Okay. But I feel like I've only heard about it in like the last year or so.
I mean, yeah, if the book came out in 2018, it's got to give, it a couple of years to get a little popular. But yeah, they ain't waste no time making that movie. The book came out yesterday.
Yeah. Basically. They're making that money now. Ooh.
Making that shmoney, honey.
Right. As long as Netflix needs stuff, book writers are claiming stuff.
They're cranking it out.
Yes. All right.
And here we go.
You want to tell about this? Want to say the name of the movie we're spoiling today?
So, think Disney Channel, one of our favorite film production studios. Not Disney Channel, Disney, excuse me. Forgive me, my apologies.
Oh.
But think adolescence, think troubled children, troubled life,
curses,
mystery,
family,
destiny, money, greed, wealth, thievery, villainy, racism, hatred. The list goes on.
Donkeys, pigs,
lizards, rattlesnakes, guns.
If I count
snake venom.
While we're saying this, I hope people out there are trying to guess what we were doing.
Because if not, this is a waste of our oxygen and time.
Well, it's also in the title, so it doesn't really matter anymore because you probably already know what we're talking about.
Wait, did we say the title already?
No, but you know what I mean? Like, click on the title of a show.
Oh, right.
Yeah. The episode's already spoiled it for you. But today we are doing the infamous holes.
We're doing holes, baby. Digging up, digging. Digging up, you got to go and dig those holes. Well, I guess it's time for us to dive in.
Ooh, I'm about to dive in. Whoa.
Okay. So, in case you've been living under a rock and you've never seen this classic, amazing child film, here it is.
Here it is.
Excuse me. Here's the summary. Okay. Stanley Yelnats IV, played by Shia LaBeouf, and his family have been cursed to be incredibly unlucky. One day, Stanley is sentenced to an all-male juvenile boot camp after being falsely accused of thievery.
Mm-hmm.
At the camp, the boys are forced to work long hours and dig holes in the desert. While there, Stanley soon realizes how the actions of several people from the past have affected his life in the present.
You know what's funny? I just thought when you said he was accused of thievery, I don't want to forget this thought, so I'm bringing it up now, that his great-great-grandfather was also, quote-unquote, a thief. He stole the pig.
Oh, you think so?
That's what his grandfather says. He was like, that no good, stinking,
stealing, no good, pig nose stealing, rotten.
Yeah, which is funny because that's kind of how they got in this whole situation because his
I guess. I feel like he didn't really steal the pig. She gave it to him.
I mean, technically back then he did steal the pig. I mean, like we bargained for things like, hey, I'm going to give you this pig so you can marry this girl. But in exchange for that pig, I need you to do this for me later down the line.
I wouldn't call it thievery. I'd call it swindling. I feel like thievery is a strong word.
I think he stole the pig. He didn't give anything in return.
Swindle.
I don't think he swindled either, because I don't think he did it on purpose.
I don't think he stole the pig on purpose.
Yeah, but he dropped his contractual duties. We had a contract, yo. We shook on it.
I don't know.
Where's my
I think...
But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
We're getting ahead of ourselves. Especially if we don't know what the movie's about.
Right.
Okay.
So, the film was directed by Andrew Davis. It was written by Louis Schechter.
See.
Mm-hmm.
I totally. She didn't want to give up on it.
SACHAR.
Oh my gosh, she's Let it go.
He said, oh my god. Just cut out the spellization of it, please. Based on the novel of the same name, it was originally published in August 1998. The novel, not the film.
1998? Wow.
Yeah.
When did this movie come out?
The movie was released on April 18th, 2003. So like 5 years later.
It's a quick turnaround.
Yeah, they didn't waste no time, just like when the Crawdaddies sing. And the budget, would you like to guess it?
Holes, middle of nowhere. I'm gonna say 5 million.
Okay. Incorrect.
10.
Okay.
12.
Okay.
$15 million.
One more guess.
$20 million.
There you go. $20 million.
Okay.
You're getting mediocre at this. Can't say better.
One day I'm just gonna have you. I'm just gonna spout off movies and see if you can guess it.
Oh baby, I'll get it every time.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I do.
Okay.
Summer of 2010. This was my life. Googling these movies, seeing who was in them, when they was coming out, what was the release date, how much it made, what was the box office. That's all they did.
That was your bread and butter.
That's my bread and butter, baby. Box office.
Box office. $40 million.
Okay.
50.
Okay.
$80 million.
$71.4 million.
Okay.
So
Decent.
it was a decent success.
Great. Disney Channel movie.
As it should have been for the fantastic storyline that it is.
It's a really good. When I was watching it and taking notes, I was like, I need to watch this again while I'm not taking notes so I can really dive in because it's so good.
So many twists and turns, so many backstories, so many side stories.
3 stories in one.
So much symbolism, so much intertwining of different stories and different characters. Just so well written and so well thought out. Chef kiss to the writer. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned that the writer of the book is also the writer of the screenplay.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
that's why the movie was so good.
Yeah. Right. So, couldn't really find much on who was up for this, who was up for that. Nobody stars here, okay? But the director did say when looking for Stanley Yelnats IV, he was looking for a young Tom Hanks. I guess Shia LaBeouf fit that bill, but
that's a hard thing to put on a child.
Yeah. What else? What were we watching? Hanks. And somebody said they wanted a young Diane Keaton. What was that?
Was that Matilda? It was Diane Keaton. Was it Clueless?
It wasn't Clueless. Was it Matilda? No. A young Diane Keaton.
I feel like it was a Lindsay Lohan movie. Was it Mean Girls? No. It
no.
Mean Girls.
Oh, it was the Parent Trap.
Okay,
that's what it was.
Yeah. The children. Right.
That's what it was.
That's what it was.
Eureka. Okay, moving on. Characters, because there's a lot of characters in this movie, so I think it's worth noting who's plays who.
Let's do it.
Whom? Okay, Shia LaBeouf plays Caveman Stanley Yelnats IV. Cleo Thomas plays Hector Zero Zeroni. Brandon Jefferson plays Rex X-Ray Washburn. Sojourner Weaver plays the warden Louise Walker. John Voight.
Who's John?
The warden. I mean, not the warden, Mr. Sir. Plays Marion Mr. Sir.
Oh, okay.
Patricia Arquette plays Catherine Kissing Kate Barlow. Tim Blake Nelson plays Dr. Mom Podinsky. Jack M. Smith plays Alan Squid. Brian Cotton. I don't know how I feel about that.
His last name being Cotton?
Yes. Plays Theodore Armpit Johnson. Just think of all the go pick cotton jokes that he had to suffer through his entire life.
Right. I wonder where he got this name. I wonder if that says like...
I would legally change that.
I wonder what's the history. That's a very specific name.
I don't know, but that's a tough last name to have as a black boy growing up in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then Miguel Castro plays Jose Magnet. Max Cash plays Ricky Zigzag. And Dual Hill plays Sam the Onion Man. And Henry Winkler. My favorite quote comes from Henry Winkler. If you sit at the table long enough, all the chips come to you. Plays Stanley Yelnats III. So he plays Stanley's daddy.
Did you mention what's her name? Madame Zeroni is played by...
Oh, I didn't. And Madame Zeroni is played by Eartha Kitt. That's all I got.
That's all you got. I will say before I start, a lot of my notes, because it's a book, I was able to find a lot of notes and background online. Just want to reference my notes. Thank you, The Great Saver, because you saved this, because you helped me make these notes. And then, why are you looking at me like that? And Schmoop. Why are you looking at me like that?
What are you talking about?
When I was typing these notes.
And I helped you? What did I help you?
You helped me. No. They, because it's based off a book.
Right.
So instead of like typing all the notes,
said, no.
I copied and pasted them. And I'm sourcing my information.
So these notes are from Cliff Notes or something?
Kind of.
Oh.
Kind of not.
I thought you were saying thank you to me. And I was like, Jordan, I did not contribute to these notes.
Oh, no, I was not. I'm saying thank you to some of these notes I got from Grade Saver and .com and Schmoop.
Oh, Grade Saver. I thought you said thank you, Great Savior. I thought you were calling me the Great Savior for helping you with these notes. Oh. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Thank you, the Great Savior.
Yeah.
It's something I've never said in my life.
That's why I was so confused.
Yeah.
I was perplexed.
All right. Let's begin, because this one's going to be a long one. My notes are a little touching the 7th page. And it was scary writing them, but I couldn't get them down. So many stories.
I know.
It was really hard.
Even when I was going back reading it, I was like, she's left some stuff out. But I was like, I'm not even going to go back and add because it's going to take forever.
If it wasn't like necessary, I had to leave it out.
Yeah, because I was like, she left it out. I was like, we don't need it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. Okay. So, the film opens in the desert with a group of boys digging holes, and the theme song plays in the background.
Dig it up, oh, dig it up, oh.
Okay. So one of the attendees of the camp, quote unquote, barf bag, is tired of digging holes. He's tired of being out there in the desert. I call it the desert, but it's a dried up lake. But in my head, I call it desert. But it's a dried up lake. Desert. Yeah, I guess it's the desert. I don't know. Okay. So he's tired of digging holes, and he takes off his shoe, and he sees a rattlesnake in the distance, and he has the rattlesnake. He gets close enough to it so the rattlesnake can bite him, so he can go home, and ends the scene.
Which is actually kind of smart.
I don't know.
I mean,
we're a little far from civilization.
I mean, in that instance, no. But if you're like so miserable, because they are literally in the desert, the middle of nowhere, probably working from sunup to sundown in the hot heat. It doesn't rain out there. They're children.
They're doing slave labor.
It's slave labor. They're doing prison work.
Yeah, it's a labor camp.
And if you want to get out of there, that's a smart way to do it.
A sad way to think about it was that he was committing suicide.
Oh. Ooh, I didn't think.
Like, I don't know. Like,
maybe. That's
also an option.
I think if that was the case, we would have seen a lizard and not a rattlesnake.
Yeah. Because it was a sure death.
Because that's a guaranteed death.
Yeah. But he was, I don't know what his intentions were, but he definitely wanted to get out of that situation for sure.
And then all the boys are trying to stop him. They're like, no, barf bag, don't do it. It's not that bad out here. Yes, it is. Don't do it, barf bag. Hold on, barf bag.
Do you think that he got that nickname because he barfed in a bag? I wonder where he barfed in a bag. I guess he
probably
like a barf bag.
Yeah,
it's an interesting.
Interesting.
Yes.
So in the next scene, shifting gears, we see a young Stanley Yelnats, Shia LaBeouf.
The fourth.
He's walking, he's minding his very own business, and he gets pummeled in the head with some tennis shoes.
A young Shia LaBeouf.
This was his film debut. This was the first movie he was ever in.
I wonder if he did this before or after Even
Stevens. He was filming, the show was in production, running while he filmed this here movie.
Right.
So he gets in the head by a pair of shoes. He's like, oh my goodness, shoes. Sure. What's my luck to get these lovely, nice, expensive red and white Clyde Livingston sneakers? In the movie, Clyde Livingston is a baseball player played by Rick Fox.
Oh, he's a baseball player. Okay.
Yes.
I assume
they're baseball sneakers or something.
Oh, they are. They're cleats.
Yeah, they're cleats. So he gets these nice cleats. He's like, oh my goodness, cool cleats that just fell from the sky magically. I'll take them. So he's walking. He's minding his business. All of a sudden, you hear sirens. You hear the ambulance. You hear cops pull up on him.
Right, and he's running, too, so he looks suspicious.
Oh, yeah, and at this point, now he's running.
He's jogging for whatever reason.
He's running for his life. And the police get out the car. They stop him. They're like, what's your name, boy? Give me those shoes. Where'd you get those shoes from? And he's like, my name's Stanley Yelnats IV.
He's such a little nerd. He's adorable.
Such a precious little baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's
been taken to the police. And the police take him to his family's apartment. And there we walk into his home. And we see...
They're very poor.
Yes. And clutter everywhere. There's shoes everywhere. There's a machine. And we find out that his dad is an inventor. And he's trying to find something to make shoes smell good and, stop athletes' feet.
Yeah. And to make shoes odorless, basically.
But there's, in the apartment, there's shoes everywhere. There's a machine everywhere. Clearly, he's not successful in his business. He's still trying to figure out.
Smells like feet.
He asks the officer to smell his shoe. He's really into it. Not in a weird way, but he's just I don't know. That is weird, actually.
He's passionate about what he's trying to create.
A slight foot fetish, but we'll leave it there.
He has not been successful in his endeavors. So once the police enter Stanley's home with Stanley, they give the parents the rundown. Hey, your kid stole these shoes. The grandpa who lives with them, so Stanley's grandpa, Stanley's father's father, is very defensive. And he's like, how dare you come into our home and accuse him of thievery?
Right.
He would never. He didn't steal these shoes. And the mom and the dad are just like, everyone calm down.
No.
And then they take Stanley. Then the cops ask to see Stanley's room. So they go into Stanley's room, which he shares with his grandpa. Indication of how poor they are. God. Jesus.
Jesus.
And they share a room, and you find that Stanley has this wall, his side of the room decorated with Clyde Livingston posters and autographed pictures and all this stuff. And then the cops are like, well, obviously you stole the shoes because here you are with this shrine to Clyde Livingston. It's in the bag. You're done.
Who isn't a fan of this man? He's a 14-year-old boy.
Yes.
That's not enough evidence, Your Honor.
Correct. Who isn't a fan of a baseball player at 14 years old?
Exactly. So that night at dinner, the family is discussing their curse. And apparently it's just on the men of the family.
Stanley's great grandfather got a curse put on him. I think we learn about it a little bit later, but there's a curse on the family. It only affects the men, and they sing the song, if only the woodpecker sighs, the bark on the tree was as soft as the sky. And the mom's like, stop talking about the curse. I don't like that talk. And Sandy's like, it's okay, Mom. I don't believe in it. My court case is coming up. We'll be just fine. Little does he know.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. Cut to the next scene.
That curse is in full effect, baby.
Yes. In the next scene, the judge is like, guilty. And he's like, oh, wow.
Yeah. So the
curse
judge
is real.
Literally is like, first of all, the punishment does not fit the crime here.
Shoes. He's a 14-year-old boy.
I don't care who they belong to. I don't care if they belong to Jesus Christ himself. They sentenced this boy. First of all, the judge is a douche. He's like, I could send you to jail right now and I wouldn't leave any sloop over it. And he was like...
They're in Texas, by the way.
Huh?
It's very Texas.
Yes, Texas. Very Texas. He sounds like a Texas Southern judge from
and that's why he's, Texas is kind of harsh.
Jim Crow era. The way they're treating him, you would swear to God he was a black man. I was like, oh my God, why are we talking to this?
It's intense for a 14-year-old boy who, I'm sure this is his first crime, and he stole shoes. And honestly, there's not enough evidence.
Yes,
just found them.
Yeah, it's not at all. But anywho, so the judge is like, I could sentence you to jail right now, and I wouldn't lose any sleep over it,
sir.
But then he tells him there is an opening at this boys' camp called Camp Green Lake, and he gives Stanley the option. He said, Camp Green Lake or jail. And Stanley says, well, I've never been to camp before. And he sentences him to 18 months, a year,
and some change,
in 8 months to Camp Green Lake for some shoes.
That
is like forever.
That legal system is terrible. For
horrible.
Shoes.
Some of the worst I've ever seen. That's why if you ever commit a murder in Texas, run, because they're gonna try and give you the death penalty. Harsh judicial system.
Not if you ever kill somebody, they might try to kill you.
Whatever.
That was a bad example.
But hey, the judicial system is harsh out in Texas.
Yes, you should have said, like, if you steal some bread, they'll try to kill you. You were like, if you murder an entire family, they're gonna try to put you to death.
They're gonna put you to death.
It's like, well,
I mean, but some states don't allow it. But death penalty, Texas is pretty loose with it.
Yeah, they'll throw it at you.
But so he is sentenced to 18 months.
It's crazy.
At Camp Green Lake.
An abuse of the legal system. I feel like the lady must be getting like little kickbacks when he sends kids over there. Because there's no way.
Oh, like a profit?
Yeah.
Probably.
It doesn't make any sense why you would send him there 18 months. Also, this is also part of his destiny. You know, he gets sitting there, barf bag just left.
Oh, that was the opening.
That's the opening.
Oh, I never even made that
That's
connection.
the opening that happened.
That makes sense.
He's destined to go there in my head.
Wow. I never even made that connection. That the opening was barf bag.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yes. So, on the... What? Oh, you about to say?
You could watch this movie 1,000 times and still miss everything. It still miss so many things.
Right. So... Stanley is sent off to camp, and on his drive up to the Camp Green Lake, we see like hundreds and thousands of holes everywhere. And while he's passing on the road, we see like a ghost-like figure of an old-timey black man with a donkey and buggy. When I saw that, I was like, is he psychic? Like, how is he seeing this old man? It's just like, it's weird.
So he's on the bus, he passes them up, and he sees him.
Like a ghost.
The ghost. He sees him as clear as day because you watch him look at him and turn his head and it's like, who was that? So yeah, that's weird.
So it's kind of haunted.
Yeah. So he sees, basically on his way there, he sees a haunted ghost with a donkey. And preface that although this camp is called Camp Green Lake, there's no lake. They are in the desert.
Yes.
The lake is dried up.
For years. Okay, so now at camp, Stanley meets Mr. Sir, and that's what you should call him. For now, we do not know his real name. And he loves to eat sunflower seeds because he just quit smoking, and he is very, very mean.
Yeah, think old correctional officer.
Not to be played with.
Very Texas, very stern man.
He's mad at life, and he chooses to take that out on children.
Yeah, he's just real angry.
Very angry.
So I feel like in a different life he could have been a nice man, but in this life he's mean.
Pretty much all the counselors here are child abusers. I would like to.
Every adult that works at this camp needs to be in prison.
Yes. So Mr. Sir tells Stanley as he's showing him around that, by the way, you know, no one runs away from here because they're basically in a desert and they have the only water source for 100 miles. So if you ever think about running, go out and die because you ain't getting nowhere.
Yes. And he also tells him that the rules of the camp, he's basically giving him an orientation. So he's telling him, you try to run away, you're going to die. Every day you're to dig one hole. Your shovel is your measuring stick, 5 feet wide, 5 feet in diameter. And he also tells him to stay away from rattlesnakes, but also to stay away from the yellow spotted lizards that they have on the campgrounds. And of course, Stanley's like, oh my God, rattlesnakes? What? And Mr. Sir's like, you would think to worry about the rattlesnakes, but if you get by a rattlesnake, there's a chance you might survive. No,
Right.
that's not a guaranteed death. You know, you get to the hospital enough, you're good. But if you get bit by one of these yellow spotted lizards, that is a guaranteed slow and painful death.
Instant.
You will not survive that.
Mm-hmm. Also, I want to say Mr. Sir has like a crooked eye. Does he have a crooked eye?
It's like I don't even know. It's like lazy. It's like halfway
lazy
shut.
Yeah.
It's like he's like squinting 100% of the time.
As you said that, I was just thinking him like
it's like he's looking at a book and he needs glasses. Right. That's what his eyes do. But yeah, so he tells him that you get bit by one of these yellow spotted lizards, your life is officially over.
It's done so, honey. Which is why do they have these kids there?
Yes.
And then next, Mr. Stanley meets Dr. Pendeski.
Yes.
Who at first appears very nice. He seems nice. He's like,
you might have made some bad decisions in your life, but that does not make you a bad person.
Right. He seems very nice. He's not. And
it's weird.
Yeah. And he tells him the number one rule of the camp is not to upset the warden. We don't see they're kind of a mystery for a good bit of the movie.
Yeah.
The warden.
We don't see the warden for a while. And then Dr. Podensky is introducing Stanley to the campers there who are also in his tent. So we are introduced to Theodore, aka Armpit, Rex, aka X-Ray, who I cannot stand, and Alan, aka Squid. They come up, they ask Dr. Podensky, okay, who's this? And they ask about Barf Bag. Is Barf Bag coming back? Dr. Podensky says no, he will not be coming back because he's on dang near his deathbed.
Yeah.
And they introduce him to Stanley.
Then Stanley goes to his tent where he meets kind of quote unquote Zero for the first time.
Yeah. So we meet all those three. Then once he gets to the tent, he's in tent D or something like that. Then we also meet Magnet, whose real name is Jose, and we also meet Zigzag, whose real name is Ricky. We are introduced to Zero, who is very, 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 very tiny and precious, and he has a 3C curl pattern.
Oh, okay. And he does not talk.
Oh yeah, he's a mute. He don't speak.
And Dr. Podesky, who I thought was nice off bat, immediately says Zero doesn't talk because there's nothing going on in his stupid little head.
Yeah. He has this weird
obsession for this child.
Hatred for Zero for whatever reason.
Why?
Because he don't even talk.
He don't talk. He don't bother nobody. He digs his hole and he go about his day.
So what's the beef? I don't know.
I want it to be racist. It's not racist because he doesn't do that to the other little black boy.
Because he don't do it to Armpit or X-Ray.
Yeah, I don't know what his deal is with Zero, but
it's weird.
Keep playing with my friend. He gonna show you what he bout.
Period. Poo.
Mm-hmm. So Stanley is trying to learn the way of the land while also being bullied by his tent mates and his fellow peers. In the mess hall, Stanley tells everyone there that he is there because he was accused of stealing a pair of Clyde Livingston's Sweet Feet shoes from a homeless shelter that the baseball player had donated to. And when Zero hears this, he makes a face. ...
And then he asks him a question. He asks him something like, oh, were they red? No, did they have red X's on them or something like that? And everyone at the table literally gasps because they have never heard him talk before. And this is the first time he has opened his mouth to ask a question to
Stanley about these shoes. And Stanley's like, yeah, they did have red X's on them. And he's like, how'd you know that? And he's like, no, never mind.
Mind your business.
So that night, Stanley can't sleep and he has a flashback to dinner with his family, discussing their bad luck and how his dad's inventions don't work because of the curses that the family has. And his dad mentions that the first Stanley Yelnats. Am I saying that? Yelnats.
You said Yelnats and then you said something else.
Yelnats. Won big in the stock market, but lost everything when he was robbed by Kissing Kate Barlow.
Played by Patricia Arquette.
Yes. Who kisses everyone she kills after she kills them. But the original Stanley Yelnats was not kissed, so he lived.
So we get a little flashback here to like, I don't know, Western times, think like cowboy era. And kissing Kate Barlow, we see her. She's with her and her little band of vigilantes, and they are holding up Stanley Yelnats IV up at gunpoint. They're rifling through his carriage. I don't know what it is. They steal his, basically like his pot of gold.
His treasure chest.
His treasure chest that has his name on it. It's like this big brass, think like literally a treasure chest that has Stanley Yelnats on it, and they steal it from him, and they leave him
alive in the desert,
stranded. She doesn't kill him, because if she'd have killed him, she would have kissed him. But they leave him stranded out in the desert, and he basically goes dang near insane because he's left out there with no food, no water for 14 days and 14 nights.
But he survives and passes down the lineage of the Stanley
Yelnats name.
So before the next morning, before the sun even comes out, the boys are up getting ready to dig their hole for the day. God bless them, because I'd be so upset. They had to be up at like 4 a.m.
Yeah, the sun is nowhere near to coming up.
Is no way near. Also, I do wonder, because they dig holes throughout the whole campsite. Do they have to walk to their new location?
That's what I was trying to find out, because when they're done, like they all finish digging their holes at different times of the day.
Yeah, because
you would think. Because you would think, oh, they get dropped off together, they leave together, but they all get done at different points of the day. So they all just walk back to the campsite.
And then sometimes it's really far.
Yes.
Like really far.
Like miles.
Yeah. I'm like, wait, what?
Right.
I never thought about that part. But because, of course, Mr. Sir's not letting them ride in his truck.
Right.
They're walking.
Right.
That's terrible.
And y'all making them walk out in the desert by themselves in the dark.
If they're surrounded by those lizards,
yellow spotted lizards
that stay in the hole.
This place is a breeding ground for prison time. Yeah. Okay, these adults should be locked up, not the children.
Mm-hmm. So Mr. Sir tells Stanley that if he finds something interesting, let him know, because the warden is looking for something interesting, quote unquote, and will get him the day off if she likes it.
And Stanley's basically like, okay, so what in particular should I be looking for? And he's like, you're not looking for anything. You're out here to build character.
He's like, okay.
You take a bad boy, make him dig holes all day in the hot sun, and it turns him into a good boy.
That's our philosophy here at Camp Green Lake.
You know what's funny? That they keep that lie going.
Yes. You're here to build character.
That's not true.
You're not looking for anything. Come on. What's the logic behind a camp to just dig holes for nothing? Purposely to dig holes? Not even today's prison system gives unnecessary labor, okay?
Right.
If you go to Angola, they're picking cotton, because they pick cotton at Angola. They pick cotton for a reason.
For profit.
Yes. To spin that cotton into your nice little wool and cotton pants that you're wearing, okay? That you wear for Christmas. Okay? No one gives out labor just to give it out for no purpose.
Right. And, like, in my head, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's something to do. But, like, when you really think about it, because when I first heard this story, I was like, yeah, they're just doing it to be cruel.
Right.
But, like, when you really think about it, yeah, she's definitely looking for something.
Why are we just digging holes just to dig a hole?
Especially if you mention it.
Yeah.
But if I was him, I'd be like, okay, whatever, we're just digging holes to dig holes. But
I'm just a child.
Yeah, I'm just a child. I'm just trying to make it through the day. So, Stanley begins to dig, which I will say, this is, like, hard ground. I think it'd be impossible. I don't know how any of them dig a hole.
It's not hard ground. It's sand and dirt.
I don't know. It's like, that's really hard work. Like, could you imagine?
Yeah, it's hard work for sure.
But, like, digging in, like, dirt, like, kind of soft grass, that's, to me, it's just, like, it wasn't even sand. It was just, like, literally dried up, just hard.
It's dirt.
But it seems impossible.
No one said this was easy work, Jordan.
It just seems impossible. I'm like, how do they even do it? And they're like children.
Yeah, how Zero is able to do that, I don't understand.
Right.
Because he's literally like 4'11".
Yes. So Stanley, it's not going well for Stanley. The kids are like basically bullying him. As they dig their holes out and dump the dirt, they're like dumping it into Stanley's hole.
He is not fitting in well here. Yeah. The poor baby. He is the new kid on the block. And they are really treating him like that.
Yes.
He's getting bullied, abused, verbally, physically, left and right.
Poor baby. So while this is, so this movie has a lot of flashbacks in it, so we're going to do a lot of flashbacks. So while this is happening, Stanley stands up, he looks off into the distance, and he hears in his like internal monologue, he hears his grandfather to begin to tell the story of their curse. So it all starts with
no good, dirty, rotten, pig-stealing great-great-grandfather, Stanley Yelnats.
In a little village in Latvia, where he is working and he spots a beautiful girl whom he decides then and there that he loves and wants to marry. And he goes to a fortune teller, Madame Zeroni, for advice.
Played by Eartha Kitt.
Yes. And she's hearing his story and she's like, you should just go to America. Forget, because the girl that he likes is Myra Minky. And she's like, leave that girl alone. She's an idiot. Go to America. My son just went to America too. That's how we get to America. Don't worry about that little girl. She's an idiot. Go to America. You seem like a smart boy. And he's like, no. My penis says I need to go after this girl.
My penis leads my brain.
Yeah. I'm not seeing idiot. I'm seeing a pretty face.
And that's all I care about.
Yes. But he doesn't follow her advice, and instead he goes to ask Myra's father for permission to marry her. He laughs in his face. You have nothing.
Because he has nothing to offer. Because, of course, back then, this is
like
dowry times. You need a cow and a pig and a goat and 3 sheep to marry one girl.
Mm-hmm. And there's already
he ain't got none of that.
And there's already this fat, sloppy, big man there.
His name is Igor.
Igor, who wants to marry...
He looks like an Igor.
He does. He wants to marry Myra, too, and he has assets. Baby.
Yeah, he has a pig.
He has a pig.
To offer. And so the dad's like, Eeyore over here got a pig. What you got? And he's like, I just have love and affection. And he's like, come back to me when you got something of value. Right. So Elia goes back to Madame Zeroni. He kind of spills her the tea. And she's like, okay, fine. If you're not going to take my advice, here's what you should do. She has a boatload of little piglets. Mm-hmm. And she's like, take this little piglet right here. And then he's like, well, what am I supposed to do with this baby piglet?
Right. How does it solve my problems?
Madame Zeroni is basically like, you have to take the piglet, you have to nurture it, you have to take care of it. You have to take it up the mountain every day, make it drink water from the stream so it can get big and strong. And while you do that, you have to sing, if only the woodpecker sighs, the bark on the tree was as soft as the sky. While the wolf waits below, hungry and lonely, he cries to the moon, if only. So basically, she tells him that he has to do all that.
Yes. So the pig will get bigger, and then he will also get stronger.
Yes. So while the pig gets big and fat, he gets strong because he's carrying the pig up the mountain.
Mm-hmm. So it's a life lesson. It's like a wipe on, wipe off type of situation.
Yeah, a real Mr. Miyagi moment.
Mm-hmm. He's like, why am I doing this?
So at some point, we see him doing all of this. And then so after that's completed, Madame Zeroni says, okay, once you give the pig off to
the father, Myra's father.
Yeah, Myra Minky's dad, then you have to take me up to the mountain. And you have to let me drink from the stream so that I can get big and strong.
But if you forget to come back for Madame Zeroni, you and your family will be cursed for always and eternity.
That's the contract right there.
Yeah, that's the agreement.
Yeah,
she gives him the pig, he's got to eventually take her up the mountain and let her get big and strong. I don't know why she finds it necessary. Like, I don't get why she needed that.
Because she needs someone to take care of her because her son's gone. Who's gonna watch her? I don't know why she didn't go to America.
Why she need to go up to a mountain and drink water? Girl, if you don't go to the faucet.
I'm assuming the water there is good and healthy. I don't know. It's like, because he could bring the pig anywhere. You don't have to go up this mountain.
What is this? The fountain of youth water?
Basically, it's got good minerals up there.
Okay, well that's the contract.
That's the contract.
Now that the pig's all big and strong, Elia finally goes to the daddy and presents the pig to him. And Eeyore is there, as well as the dumb blonde that he is interested in marrying. And he tells Myra, he's like, I'll let you pick. The pigs are the same.
They're both fat. They're both big.
And she's like, oh, gosh, I get to choose? Oh. So she's like, I know. I will pick a number between 1 and 10. And at this point, Elio's like,
huh?
Babe.
He said what?
What's going on here?
It should be easy.
Look at him and look at me. This should be an easy selection. So after her literally being dumb and not seeing a prize standing in front of her because Elio's really hot, he gets annoyed and he's like, you can keep my pig. Consider it wedding present. And so he storms off in frustration and anger because he did all of this, and he does not get Myra in the end because he does realize, like, Madame Zeroni did tell him that she's in fact a dummy. Mm-hmm. So he storms off in frustration, and all of this was kind of for nothing.
Yeah.
But he does take Madame Zeroni's original advice, and he does make his way to America.
But a big butt. What did he forget to do on his way?
Girl, he forgot to go and carry her up the mountain and let her drink that water so she could get big and strong like the pig.
Therefore, creating
the curse. And that's how the curse is created. He never took Madame Zeroni up the mountain so that she could get big and strong. So now, like she promised, his family is now cursed forever and all eternity.
So back at the camp, we learn it's another day of digging, but we learn that Zero is the fastest digger, despite
being the fastest digger in all the land. Run, digger, run!
Despite being like the tiniest little thing there. He's like literally like
he's
about
literally
4 feet.
He's not even tall. Like 5'8".
Yeah.
He has to be like 11 years old.
It's like 5. He's 5 feet tall at max.
Yeah.
That's
No. Yeah.
Like maybe 90 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's really tiny, but he
think child size.
Yeah. But he
and somehow he is the fastest digger in all of the land. Meanwhile, Stanley literally takes him the entire day.
He's finishing last
to complete his hole. So once Zero and everybody else has finished their holes, Stanley is the last left behind, and he makes his way back to camp. And while there, I guess he's like, showering or taking off his scrubs or whatever. And just before he hops into the shower and decompresses, he is met with the fangs of a yellow spotted lizard, and he is a moment away from being bitten. But just in time, Mr. Sir shoots the yellow spotted lizard and spares Stanley's life because
he's got good aim.
That lizard was inches away from leaping onto Stanley and killing him.
They're really big jumpers, apparently.
Yeah. They leap. They're leapers.
Yes.
I'm a leaper.
New girl. That's my favorite scene ever.
Ooh, girl. The first time I saw that, I had tears in my eyes.
Just the whole clip is funny.
Tears.
Because he's pretending to be a gay man.
He's like, you leap? Well, let me see your leap. Let me see it.
Yeah, come on, leaper. He's the best. It's going to be a real show. That's what Schmidt says.
It's going to be a real show.
Woo, he was funny.
He's like, yeah, let me see your leap.
Such a good show.
Oh, hilarious.
So that scene happened, and then we see Stanley riding home to his mom, and he's like pretending that camp is nice and that everyone is like really nice to him, and they have these cool activities.
He's like, the water's so fresh, and I just learned how to jet ski, and the lake is just so vast and blue and luxurious.
So nice of him.
Food is delicious. And meanwhile, they're in a desert and they're being served slop,
and everyone is mean to him,
and he is in danger of dying every day at this camp. But he is selling the dream to his mom, which is so sweet.
Yes. So sweet.
Such a sweet boy.
Right. And to lie to his mom is so nice.
Yes. To make her feel better.
So out at the lake, quote unquote, another day of digging. And this time, Stanley has found a fossil in one of the holes that he was digging and brings it to Dr. Pendeski, hoping that he can get the rest of the day off as an award. And he is told that the warden is not interested in this little fossil, babe. This is not what she's looking for. Oh, they're looking for. And he's told that he needs to find something more interesting. X-ray.
Wait, I do want to emphasize or emphasize when he goes up to Dr. Pedinsky and shows him the fossil, and they're like, "Come on, you for real? Like about this?" One of the boys, who was it? Not Zigzag, the other one. Squid. He says something to the effect of he was like, "Oh, Stanley really must belong in a cave." Man.
Right. Okay.
He says Stanley must really belong in a cave. Man.
Foreshadowing.
Yes.
Foreshadowing.
So I just wanted to point that.
Yes.
That
Good point,
tip
good
it
point.
out.
So, X-Ray, who is like the leader of the group? He's the leader of Tent D or whatever.
He is the Regina
number 1.
George.
He's number 1. Yes.
He is the Red Heather. He is the Cher.
Mm-hmm. He's running the show.
He is Annie.
Annie? Oh, like Annie and Hallie?
Yeah. I was like, what's her last name? She's the Annie.
I was like, Annie the musical? ?
She is Hallie Parker.
Hallie Parker.
He is the Hallie Parker.
LOL. I was like, what are you
He's the
talking?
Hallie Parker.
I was like, Annie. We got Annie. Okay. Annie.
And why? First of all, the two characters, honestly, that I hate the most, more than the Warden and Dr. Sir and Dr. Pedinsky, is literally X-Ray and Zigzag.
Yeah, Zigzag's a hater.
I hate them so much. Everybody, for whatever reason, X-Ray is like their fearless leader. Whatever he says goes. And he literally looks like a Poindexter. He has these glasses. I guess that's why they call him X-Ray. Because you can literally do an X-ray on a microscope with a magnifying glass. You can burn an ant on his glasses. They're so huge. And he's got these big old bug eyes. And everyone's like petrified of him. But I'm just like, I don't get it. Because I feel like I could flick him and he'd blow away into the dust.
He's confident.
With the desert.
He's just confident. It's also because he's been there the longest.
And I don't even think he's been there that long. He only been there 6 months. When they got there? Yesterday?
He only been there 6 months?
Yes. He
Maybe
says
so.
that he's only been there for 6 months.
Okay. So X-Ray, after hearing that Stanley quote unquote found something, he says, in the future, if you find something else, go ahead and give it to me. Because he said he deserves it because he's been there the longest.
Yeah, he's like, I've been here for 6 months and I haven't found anything. None of us have. You just got here, so why do you deserve a day off over me, basically?
And Stanley's like, okay.
Being the little timid little boy that he is, Stanley agrees. Oh, you want to know something interesting? When I was, doing my research on the film, in the book, originally Stanley, his character is like obese.
That I did hear. When I was doing my notes, I read that was one of the reasons why they gave him the nickname Caveman, because he was bigger.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I was like, oh, because they definitely lost that because him in the movie is really tiny. But
yeah, I don't get that. But
like a cave. When you think of caveman, you think, oh.
I don't know. I don't think of a fat person.
Why'd you think of a big person? I didn't see why the tiny little man from
Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, but
even then, I don't think of when I think of a caveman, I don't think of a big person. I think of someone who's hunched over and looks kind of like a half human, half ape.
Yeah, but yeah.
Anywho, but in the book, while at camp, he loses a absurd amount of weight throughout the process.
He's working hard
because they work criminal hours.
That's crazy.
They work 50 hours a day.
They're like naked and afraid.
Yeah. They're like the naked and afraid people, but in like a day's time.
Yeah, they come in, they lose like 60 pounds in like 12
their BMI
days.
goes down to -5%.
That show's crazy. I love it. And then while on this day, we also learned from Dr. Pedinsky that the warden's grandfather used to own the lake. Oh, no, still owns the lake. Or now she owns the lake, I guess. And the whole town
that
back
was
in the day. Yeah.
Before it dried up.
Yes.
And became a desert.
Exactly. Which leads to another flashback.
More flashbacks.
Yes. So we get a flashback of Sam the Onion Man, which is the same ghost figure that Stanley saw when he first came to camp.
So think young,
black,
southern, decently attractive,
nice,
slim, sweet, sultry, country,
entrepreneur.
Yeah, good with his hands.
Yes, but he is famous for selling his sweet onions that cure all these things, like they help with baldness and if you're sick and all this. They also whatever. And they also apparently keep the yellow lizards away from you.
Yes.
If you drink it.
Even back in this, we're flashing back to, I don't know, 1905 or something. I don't know. Back in those times, and there is still an onion problem. Excuse me, a yellow spotted lizard problem. And Sam insists that my onions, juice and cures and remedies keep the lizards away.
I did when I was doing my notes, because the notes are based off of the book, so they had added stuff in there. But it did say back, because this is 100 years ago, but back in the day, the yellowed spotted lizards, they never came into town. They stayed on the mountain that they ended up going to. And then there were men who used to go over there to do farming or something, and they would buy his juice when they went over there to keep the lizards away from him. So back in the day when it was thriving, they didn't have similar problems that they have now.
Gotcha.
So now they come to, because they couldn't pass the river, so they stayed on the mountain.
But then once the river dries up,
they
that makes sense.
Yes.
I wish they would have mentioned that.
Right. And while Sam is out there selling his onions, Miss Catherine Barlow comes out of her classroom. She's a teacher, and she goes over to talk to Sam. The two had this thing where he gives her some onions in exchange for her famous peaches. So
yeah, she's this real cute blonde hair,
very nice,
very sweet.
She's giving English teacher.
Yeah, she's giving Mrs. Honey.
Mrs. Honey. Yes,
think Mrs. Honey. That's
Honey.
her.
From lovely lady, but not as timid. Right, not
cowardly.
As timid. Yeah,
a little
more backbone.
Yeah.
But yes, sweet lady.
You can obviously tell Sam and not Miss Honey. What's her name? Catherine. You can obviously tell that these two have a little chemistry.
Little friendship.
They got a little eye gazing going on at each other, you know.
Yes. And while they're having this interaction, we also meet the warden's grandfather
who owned the lake.
Yeah. His dad, at that time when he was younger, his dad owned the town. So he's like a rich boy, thinks he deserves everything. He runs the town. And we kind of see that he has a crush on Catherine.
As well.
Yes. I also did read. So his name is Trout, or his nickname is Trout. I did read
that his feet smelled.
Yes, that he smelled like fish or something.
Yeah.
Because his feet. Yeah.
His feet smell like trout.
Which is all comes together because the dad has a business trying to cure feet. It's all one big. Everything has.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Girl,
it all has some kind of connection.
We're gonna have to read this book.
I was like, I'm gonna have to read this book.
Yeah,
or just read the Spark Notes because they were really good. But
that's you.
So in the next scene, we see Stanley in the rec room, and he's just,
he's minding his Stanley Yelnats business,
and someone bumps into him, which leads him to bump into this older guy there. So if Stanley's like 14, the guy he bumps into is like 17.
18.
I only saying 18 because
he would be in a real jail. Yeah, you're right.
But like 17, he turns 18 in like 3 months.
Yeah.
like really big. He probably did something very serious to get in there.
Yeah, this is the guy you don't want to mess with. And Stanley accidentally bumps into him. And so the guy, after Stanley bumps into him, he's like, "Watch it." And Stanley's like, "You watch it, man." And then he's like, "What did you say to me?" And he's like, "I'm sorry, look, I didn't mean anything by it."
He quickly regrets it.
Yeah, quickly regrets even turning a hair up at that man. Yeah. And right before the guy is about to attack Stanley, X-Ray and Armpit and all the other guys from Tent D come to Stanley's defense and they're like, hey, chill, bro. Like, if the warden sees or hears about a fight, she's gonna come down on all of us. Let's just keep it copacetic, keep it chill. And then the big scary guys basically like, just keep him away from me. And then they're like, we got you, sure. Totally.
For sure.
And so the situation de-escalates and they're like, okay, let's go. And then everyone's kind of like huddled up and they're like, no one messes with the caveman. Did you see the caveman back there? The caveman's ruthless. Yeah. And then Stanley's like, hey, I don't want to mess with anybody.
He's like, what?
He's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then they're like, man, just don't mess with the caveman. And then they all walk off and they're like, they turn to Stanley and they're like, you coming, caveman? And then he's like,
me?
Wait, me?
He's like, I have a nickname.
I'm the caveman?
I have a nickname.
Oh my goodness. So
this is delightful.
Right. So they finally are letting him integrate himself into the group. And now he has a nickname, so they don't have to call him Stanley no more. And now he's kind of earning their respect.
Yes. Lovely.
He's becoming his own man at this correctional facility filled with criminal juveniles.
Right. Serious ones. Like actual juveniles, because he didn't do anything.
Right, because he's innocent.
And I also will say, like, when Stanley was about to get his butt kicked, Zero in the background grabs a pool ball and is ready to come to Stanley's defense if need be.
He was about to throw hands.
Yeah. He was about to kill somebody.
Yeah, he was about to go to bat for Stanley.
Yeah, he was. And I guess in my head, this is his way of making up for the fact that he's the reason why Stanley's there.
I don't know about all that, but maybe.
I mean, what else will he feel protective about? He just met the guy.
I guess. Maybe.
Yeah,
I guess he does have
think
some
it's
sort of guilt.
Yeah. He's like, oh, I'm gonna stick up for him because he is ready. So now Stanley has the nickname of Caveman. He's shocked. He's happy. And now, and then we could see that Stanley is an official part of the group because now I guess the way you get your water.
Yeah, so when they're outside digging the dirt.
Yes.
And Mr. Sir comes up with his truck. He has his, like, water source jug thing.
And they fill up their canteens.
And that's how they fill up their water from his truck. And there's, like, a ranking
system
from when they get in line and get their water. So X-Ray being the leader for whatever reason is first in line. Then it's Armpit. Then after Armpit, it's
Zigzag?
Not Zigzag, the other one.
Squid.
Then after Squid, it's Zigzag. Then after Zigzag, it's Magnet. And then after Magnet, it's Zero. And then Stanley was last. But X-Ray, because everybody listens to whatever X-Ray does, he pushes Zero out of the line and tells Stanley that he is now in front of Zero, making him second to last in line and not last.
Yeah. And Zero's like, what?
And Zero, like, literally looks so upset and hurt. And Stanley's like, looks like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just trying to survive.
Here. But now we are seeing him move up into the ranks.
Yes.
And being part of the clique.
Girl. So in his tent, Stanley, he's reading a letter from his mom. And then the letter, his mom is saying that the landlord is trying to kick them out because the whole freaking apartment smells like feet. And in it, she tells a joke about a woman's shoe. He laughs, which gets Zero to come over. And he's like, what you laughing about? Straight face. He's like, what's going on here? He's like, oh, my mom
is emotionless this whole movie.
He's like, what's going on over here? And he's like, oh, my mom just told this joke. Ha, ha, ha. And Zero's like, I don't get it. And then Stanley's trying to keep on to read his letter. Zero's still there. And he's like, this is kind of awkward. Can you please move? He's like, you're making me uncomfortable standing on top of me.
Yeah, he's like, I don't feel comfortable reading with you standing and hovering on top of me. And then Zero goes, I can't read.
Yeah.
And it was like, ouch. And then Zero follows up with, can you teach me? And Stanley
just like,
basically tells him no by saying, look, I'm not much of a teacher. And, once we get done from digging these holes for 15 hours, I'm really tired and I just want to relax, So he basically tells him no, and Zero looks very much brokenhearted.
Poor thing.
Because it probably took him a lot of courage just to even muster up the words to ask him.
Right.
Can you teach me how to read?
Can you teach me how to read? I mean, the fact that he even talks, that takes a lot of him. And then he asks a very serious question. Can you teach me how to read? While we're here.
And then he's like, no.
See you out there, bud.
And then he's like, all right.
See you in the field.
Yeah. Stanley's like, but I'll catch you later. Bye.
Right.
Bye.
So sad. I can't tell if Zero's hurt or not because he has the same face that he had the whole time. It's just like the same blank face.
No, he's definitely hurt. Because then they cut to him just literally sitting on the bed, like emotionless, and he does not move. He just looks tired.
This is sad.
Yeah, he just looks sad.
He looks fed up. He looks so like, I've been through so much, I can't even be upset. Like, I have no emotions.
Like, nothing can hurt me because I've gone through so much trials and tribulations.
Which is even sadder. So, I guess either that day or the next day, I can never tell, like, what part of the day they're in.
Time doesn't exist here.
So, Stanley is once again digging a hole. And this time, he's got some great luck. He finds a gold cylinder, and engraved on the cylinder has the initials KB. And he's like, now this has got to be something. And then while he just found it, one of the other boys it was the Spanish one comes over.
Magnet
comes over, and he's like, "What you
got
there,
caveman?"
And caveman's like,
"If you don't mind, yo."
He's like, "What, this right here?" Oh yeah, I wasn't gonna say anything.
He's like, yeah.
No, that you mention it.
Like the boy didn't even find it for like 3.2 seconds, and he was already like, "Hey, what you got over there, caveman?"
Has he found something, huh?
I would have hit him with that shovel. I would have been like, "What are you talking about?" Whack.
Shut the hell up.
But so then Magnet comes over, he looks at it, and then which kind of forces Caveman to bring it to X-Ray's attention, who's their god.
Yes.
And he's like, Stanley's like, "Hey X, I think I found something." Everybody goes over to take a look at it. X-Ray's like, "Cool, maybe I'll show it to Padinsky and hopefully I'll get the day off." And then Stanley's like, wait, hold on, sugar
Slow
lips.
your roll, buddy.
I have been out here digging this hole all day, and I'm not even close to finish, and your hole is basically dang near done. And
on top of the fact that he always picks a shovel that's shorter than everybody else's, so his holes don't have to be as deep or as big in diameter.
Yes. X-Ray also, his shovel just happens to be the shorter shovel.
He always pixes it.
And he pixes it every time.
Yeah.
So he doesn't even have to dig the way he has
much.
to dig, like everybody else has to dig.
Right.
And so Stanley's like, "No, like I will be digging all day, and your hole is basically done." And X-Ray's like,
"Come again?
And what's your point?"
Excuse me?
He's like, and he like steps up to him, and he's like, "What's your point, bro?" And then Stanley cowers in fear and is just like, "Well, I mean, the day is practically over. It would make more sense for you to, bring it to their attention tomorrow so you can get the full day off." And then X-Ray's like, "That's pretty smart. That's pretty smart.
That is a pretty good idea.
That is smart."
Perfect.
And of course, they would never thought about it because they're stupid.
Right.
And only Stanley is the one with sense. So X-Ray does as he is told. He holds on to it, and we will see them find it.
And I will say, the fact that Stanley made the suggestion, destiny, everything's destiny. If X-Ray wasn't a bully, then he wouldn't make Stanley give him the tube. And had Stanley told the warden where he exactly found the tube, she would have had his treasure.
Right.
Because where the tube is other treasures.
Which I also, watching the movie over and over again all these years, I never made that realization.
Yes. So also
that where he finds the tube is eventually where they find the treasure.
And also Stanley remembers the hole that he digs in, because when he was digging the hole, there was a rock in it. He takes the rock out, this big old rock, and he puts it right next to the hole. And he remembers where the hole is based on that unique rock.
And I'm not gonna lie, I think the rock looked like Madame Zeroni.
That's funny. I have to look at it again.
I think it looks like a woman's face with a turban on.
I think you could definitely find a face in that rock. I didn't look hard enough, but it has like indentions in it for sure.
I thought it looked like Madame Zeroni.
So the next morning, we're out digging again, and this time
that's all we do in this movie is dig, flashbacks and digging. I know.
So early in the day, X-Ray is like, he pretends to find the tube. He brings it to Dr. Padinsky. And he's like, "Is this something the warden would like?" And Dr. Padinsky is like, "It sure the hell is." And he calls up the warden to come on down. The warden gets in their nice, like, old-timey Corvette. I don't know.
But it's like one of those old-time cars that you really like to look at because they're nice and old.
Yes. And the warden gets out in the car, and it is revealed that the warden is a woman.
Played by Sigourney Weaver.
Yes, because this whole time, it's been like a mystery. We didn't know who the warden was.
Yeah.
I think we're like 40 minutes into the movie.
Yeah,
this is the fourth time we're seeing the warden, and she plays a very big role, which I love this reveal.
Yes, I do too. And I think she's really a bad bee. She commands the room when she walks through. Everybody is scared of her. She's kind of hot.
And she's the only girl at this all-boy camp.
Yeah, and she's like, here's this woman running these little boys around and telling them what to do.
And these men, the two men.
and
they bow down to her.
Literally, Dr. Padinsky and Mr. Sir literally petrified of her, and they listen to everything that she says.
Yeah, her people. That's why they abuse them, the boys, because that lady abuses them too.
She's powerful.
So, the warden, I call her the warden. That's the whole time.
Yeah.
So she asks X-Ray, where did he find it? Now, X-Ray did not. The place that X-Ray says he found it is not the original place that it was actually found.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact. So whatever. So she grants him the day off, and the warden And she directs the boys to start digging around and near the spot that X-Ray said he found the tube.
But it's not really where he found it.
It's not really where he found it. So
basically they convert, instead of them now digging individual holes,
Yes.
now they're creating like
an excavation, like
yes, it literally looks like they're geologists.
Yeah.
like, literally unearthing.
it reminds
earth.
me of Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Like when he used to go to those sites and
they've turned like it's not even like they're digging holes; they're literally digging like a cave.
Yeah.
Now, and she's all excited. And she's like, I think today's gonna be the day we're gonna look up and
I feel
find.
lucky.
Yeah, she's all pumped, and she's like, we're gonna find what we're looking for. Little do we know what we're looking for, because here we are. These boys think they're just out here building character, but
Really
of course there's a motive to why they're
Right.
actually digging holes. So for the next few days now, the boys are now digging in the same area that they think the tube of lipstick has been found. And they're all doing it collectively instead of digging individual holes. And so the mood becomes kind of increasingly intense because we've adapted this new way of digging, but yet we have still not found what the warden is looking for.
She's becoming very upset and impatient. I did read in the book. Well, I didn't read the book. In the notes from the book, she was getting so upset that at one point, I don't know what he did, but Armpit, she stabs him with a pitchfork, and it like leaves holes in his shirt.
Oh.
Like she's like kind of like really abused. I don't know if I'm assuming it's because when he bought her the little he said he found something that obviously wasn't what she's looking for. But she like stabs him, like she's abusive. And then when she's not finding stuff, she's like, they don't need water. She's like, they don't need water, they're not working hard enough. Like she's like actively worse in the
that's horrible.
Yeah.
They don't need water.
She's like, they're not digging hard enough. They don't need water.
That is criminal.
Criminal.
She's actually, she's a bad person, but she's not that mean.
Mr. Sir seems like the worst one.
Yeah.
But I think she is actually the worst one based off the book. But Mrs. Sir is a close second.
Yeah.
But I guess that's because she's not around as much.
For sure.
But Mrs. Sir is a close second.
But yeah, so they're not having any luck. But Stanley, he kind of keeps on looking towards the area where he originally found the tube.
Which doesn't seem that far away, because it's like funny because they're so close. It has to be like maybe
they're literally like 10 feet away from it.
Right, like 10, 15. But they're just, instead of going right, they went left.
Yeah, instead of digging left, they're digging right.
And they can't find it.
And he keeps on looking at the rock that is his like mile marker of where he found the tube.
Yeah, he's trying to remember. He's keeping that in the back of his mind, because now he realized they have to be looking for something.
Yeah, because now he's realizing, okay, we looking for something.
Yes, this isn't just for fun.
This isn't for character building.
Exactly. And then now we get another flashback to Sam and Catherine, and they are growing closer and closer because he notices like the schoolhouse needs all these repairs, and she accepts his offer. And as he fixes the roof, she's like, actually, I need this fixed. He's like, I can fix that.
I can fix that.
I can fix that. And then once he fixed something, she's like, well, can you fix this? And he's like, I can fix that. And then they're slowly becoming closer and closer as he continues to find things to fix around the schoolhouse. And one night, Catherine is teaching the adults of the town how to read, and Trout Walker, currently the son of the owner of the town, is trying to hit on Catherine by my dad.
The duck may swim on the lake, but my daddy owns the lake.
But his dad owns a lake, and therefore he is rich, therefore he owns a lake. And he's got a cool new motorboat, and she should take a ride with him. He's basically asked her on a date,
and she declines his offer.
She's like, I'm not interested, thanks.
She said, no, thank you, Mr. Trout.
I'm good. And he's very, very...
And he's like, now, come on, girl.
Upset.
No one says no to Trout Walker.
Yeah.
I believe I just did.
Now, imagine a toxic man from this time. You can't tell him, like...
Oh my God, a man with power and money.
Yeah.
In the Western days.
She should be terrified.
Ugh.
That's how Catherine is, she is... She's bold. She bold. She ain't want to play with. She ain't playing your little games.
So, He walks out in anger after being rejected, and then enters Sam.
And apparently we learned that Sam crosses the lake to the mountain because that's where he grows his onions, and he brings them back to the mountain from the lake or whatever. And at one point, I guess she is starting to like him, and she misses him when he makes these trips.
Yes.
And one rainy night, she's in her schoolroom reading. Schoolhouse reading, and she's crying. And Sam has just come back from one of his trips, and he like grabs her hand, looks into her eyes, and says, I can fix that.
I can fix that.
I can fix that.
And the two embrace in a lovely kiss.
Happens between the two of them.
Which
is seen by the owner of the lake and town, Trout Walker.
Which is not good because
this is illegal. Racism.
Hot.
Jim Crow.
Hot.
Not even Jim Crow. We haven't even reached Jim Crow yet. It's so racist then that Jim Crow don't even exist yet.
So that very night. Woo!
I wouldn't say that night. It's like
maybe the next night. I don't know. That
very week.
Night, yes. Trout and his super racist friends come to Catherine's schoolhouse. They set it on fire.
They're all on their horses. They're all drinking, drunk. They're setting the schoolhouse on fire.
They're calling her terrible names, I'm sure.
They are literally being monsters.
Yeah.
So she runs out in, disbelief and tears, and she's like, oh my God, stop it. And they're continuing to throw things at the schoolhouse and set it ablaze.
Mm-hmm.
And then so Catherine, she makes a run for the sheriff's office
Sheriff.
house or the jailhouse, and she's like, sheriff, you've got to come. They set the school on fire. Little does she know, he's in on it, and he's getting drunk because he and the rest of Trout's friends are about to go hang Sam. And the sheriff is like, give me a kiss. And then she's like, oh, you're drunk. And she says, if you kill him, then you have to kill me too, because I kissed him back. And then he said, it's not illegal for you to kiss him, but it's illegal for him to kiss you. And she runs out.
Yes.
And then so she makes a run for it. She's trying to go get Sam.
Sam
is in his boat, making his way to his little farm. So he's in the boat, crossing the lake. Mm-hmm. And she's trying to make it to the lake. She's trying to warn him. She runs out. She sees Trout and his motorboat on his motorboat on Sam's tail, and he's like in a freaking canoe. Yeah. So he can't outrun them. And then she's like, Sam. And then pow. They shoot him.
And they shot his donkey.
They shot him and killed his donkey.
What was his name? Mary something?
Mary Lou or something like that. So they kill him. Sam is now dead, and Catherine has witnessed his murder.
Terrible.
I read in the book that she was with him.
Mm-hmm. I did read that too.
That
they were together.
Imagine?
Oh, so sad.
Ugh. You're right next to him and they kill him?
Yeah.
Dang. At least she in the movie, she had some distance.
Yeah.
She was like a couple of yards away.
That damn motorboat.
But nonetheless, he's dead.
Oh, R.I.P. to Sam. He didn't deserve that.
He did not.
He's a nice man.
His crime? Loving a white woman.
Another curse, because since that day, it has never rained again in Green Lake.
Yes.
BT dubs.
So ever after his death, the lake now turns into a desert.
You see where racism gets you?
See, the ancestors were not happy. And they said, okay, we're going to fix it.
Madame Zeroni was like,
Right. What is this? I think it's interesting. Well, not interesting, but I feel like Sam and Madame Zeroni should be related, but they're not.
I was literally, when I said that, I was like, that'd be crazy if they were like related.
I feel like they should be, but they're not.
Not, yeah, because it would end the bloodline.
Yeah.
Because we have zero.
Oh, yeah.
Unless he had a brother. I don't know. But I do too hope that they were somehow related, because in my head, that would bring it all together.
Right.
But anywho, the very next day, we see Catherine all dressed up in a lovely red outfit, and she goes to visit the sheriff, and she asks him, do you still want that kiss?
And of course, his
like,
half drunk behind is like, yeah.
She's like, perfect.
So
she shoots him in the head. I would like to imagine. And
she kills him.
She doesn't really show the gunshot because it's a Disney movie. which is intense for a Disney movie.
Right.
She kills him, and after she kills him, she walks over and plants a kiss on his cheek that he wanted oh so badly. And she hops on her horse and she gallops off into the distance. And this is her villain creation story, ladies and gentlemen.
Her villain origin story. This is how Catherine, what's her last name?
Kate Barlow.
Catherine Barlow, or Catherine, turns into Kissing Kate Barlow. So the story that we heard at the beginning of the movie with Stanley's grandpa telling him the story about the original Stanley Yelnats got robbed by Kissing Kate Barlow. This is her.
Okay, now I guess I kind of get why they tell that story.
Yeah, we need to know that.
Yeah, but I guess I never was like, is that really? But I guess
because it all connects, baby.
Yeah, it all connects.
It all connects.
It all connects. You know what's funny? The connection between white people and black people throughout this whole movie. I don't know how to, but like, I don't know how to say it, but like Kate and Sam, Elia and Madame Zeroni, and Zero and Stanley. I don't know. All the main characters that have effect are black and white.
I guess that is true, huh?
Race. I don't know.
I did read. Well, I feel like. Well, when I was, doing my research, I feel like they said the book talks. I feel like it doesn't do it as much because it's a Disney movie, but the book talked a lot about race, like racism and mass incarceration or whatever.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
right.
They probably watered it down
because in the movie, half the people probably should be black based on statistics.
I feel like based on
statistics.
Everybody
alone.
X-ray, zigzag.
Right, we
Squid.
Got a little more black characters, but whatever.
Stanley should have been black too.
Yeah, they didn't. I guess that's not the representation that we want, but
right. A person going to jail wrongfully. That's black people all day.
Right. Exactly. So, so back to the camp. After 4 days of group digging, there's no luck. Nothing new is found, and the warden's fed up. And the boys are now to go back to digging their original holes, and they're moved to a different part of the lake to start their character building, quote unquote.
To digging individually.
So the next day, the boys are cutting up, and Magnet steals the bag of Mr. Sun's sunflower seeds Sir's sunflower seeds while he's chit-chatting with the other boys and distracted. So the boys are like passing around the sunflower seeds to each hole. Yeah.
So he drives off at first.
Yeah.
So he gets in the car, he doesn't notice, he drives off. And then he makes a loop back around.
And that's when the bag, it's like hot potato.
Literally.
A hot potato in the bag, unfortunately, falls into Stanley's hole, spilling all the sunflower seeds. All the evidence is there. He tries to put dirt on top of it. It's not enough because there's a lot of sunflowers.
So he pulls up and he's like, whoa, what do we have here? And Stanley's like, I don't know,
sir.
He's like, I don't know. And he's like, well, I'm sure the warden would be pleased to hear about this.
The warden.
So Mr. Sir takes Stanley with him.
Ooh. That's
and
my impersonation.
They make a journey to the warden's
home. Beautiful home.
Yeah.
A lovely home.
Her house.
So, furious Mr. Sir marches Stanley to the warden's office or home. And when he gets there, he introduces the situation by saying Stanley found something in the hole. Not a good adjective to use today.
Yeah, so she's like excited because she thinks he's found like, I don't know, a gun or something.
Or like my treasure.
Right,
my gold doubloon.
Right, some kind of clue to this missing treasure that she's trying to find. So she's like, oh my God, come in.
Sorry.
And then Mr. Sher's like, well, go ahead, tell her, Yelnats. And Stanley confesses that and he is taking the fall for Magnet because Stanley did not do this, but he tells the warden that he stole Mr. Sir's sunflower seeds out of his car. Mm-hmm. And
the warden's face is like drops.
Her face immediately drops, and she asks Stanley to go get her case of nail polish sitting in like the pantry or something like that. So he goes to get it. So Stanley comes over with the nail polish. And she's like putting the nail polish on her fingernails. And she's like, you know what my secret recipe to my nail polish is? Rattlesnake venom. And she like rubs her hand against Stanley's face. And she's like, it's very deadly, but it's completely harmless once dry. Mm-hmm. But of course it's nail polish, so it's moist. And she just put it on her fingernails. And then right before Mr. Sir like asks another question, the warden gets up. And with her wet nail polish that has rattlesnake venom on it,
random,
she takes her hand and backslaps the living piss out of Mr. Sir.
She claws at his face.
And he goes to the ground. He's hooping, he's hollering. He's like, ah, ah, ah. And then, like, he says something to the effect of, he's like, all I do is show respect and worship you. He says something like that.
I wonder how they're really...
I don't know. Are they in love with her?
Where did she find those two?
I don't know where she found them.
They're the perfect villains. Like Dr. Podesky and Mrs. Sir. Like, where did she find them?
I don't know where she found those two
and
morons.
How is she controlling them?
Yes, but he's like groveling on the floor. He's like, all I do is show respect for you. Mm-hmm. And then she turns to Stanley and she's like, I would suggest you go back to digging your hole now. And then Stanley makes her run for it.
Less.
And he leaves Mr. Sir on the ground, groveling.
Yes. And while he was in the cabin, he did notice that throughout the whole house, there are like old-timey articles of kissing Kate Barlow.
Oh, okay.
And he sees that. And that's where he gets his epiphany from. But he's like looking around. And he's like, oh, kissing Kate Barlow. He's got all these posters up because, of course... Hint, hint. That's what she's looking for. What she's looking for has something to do with kissing Kate Barlow. She's upset.
So, Stanley goes back to his hole, and he goes back to his hole to find that his hole has been completely dug. And he's like, "Oh my God, guys, thanks." I don't know why he's thinking them because, of course, they would never do anything. Like that
at least this Magnet should have helped him.
If anybody should have helped him, it should have been Magnet. And then Magnet is the first one to be like, don't look at us. It was Zero. Why you wasn't helping Magnet? He literally took the fall for something that you did. But anywho, Stanley goes over to Zero. He thanks him for helping him dig his hole.
Thank you for your service.
And then Zero's like, don't worry about it. And he's like, you didn't steal the sunflower seeds. And Stanley's like, yeah, well, you didn't either. But then Zero says, you didn't steal the shoes.
It's like, okay, dude. Yeah.
I was like, okay. And it kind of was like awkward silence. And
like, why you keep bringing up these shoes?
Like, yeah, what's up with you these shoes, bro? Like, why you keep on bringing up the shoes?
Yeah.
And then so Stanley asks Zero, he's like, hey, do you still want to learn how to read? And then Zero was like, yeah. And then so he's like, okay, let's do it.
Let's do it.
So Stanley agrees to teach Zero how to read.
So the next day, Mr. Sir comes to give the boys water, and we can see his skin is, we can see the scratch marks, and it's like,
he has a huge gash.
Now, instead of taking his anger out on the warden, because she's the one who did this, he's taking his anger out on Stanley by not filling up his canteen. He lets the water that should go in his canteen fall into the dirt. And he's like, here you go. And he gives him back an empty canteen.
He deprives him of water in the middle of the desert. As they dig holes for 20 hours straight. And oh my God, the jailhouse, under the jail.
Terrible.
All of them belong.
Yes.
I cannot emphasize it enough. They are criminal people.
Right. And I will say, in the book, they made it seem 10 times worse. It was worse.
What you mean?
It wasn't just one day. It was every day.
Dang.
He wasn't filling up his canteen. And one day he filled up his canteen, took it inside the car, put something in it. Stanley wasn't sure what he put in it. Came back and gave it to Stanley. And Stanley just poured it out because he didn't want to get like
poison.
Heat exhaustion. They could have heat. All of them could have had like heat stroke.
Oh my God.
Isn't that terrible?
That is horrible.
Terrible. I'm like, I'm gonna have to read this book because these people are 10 times worse than I thought they were. 10 times. So after that happens, Stanley goes to talk to Zero, his new best friend, and he has an epiphany. Or he like talks it out with Zero. He's like, you know what? I think that gold tube that I found was actually lipstick. And I think the initials KB stood for Kate Barlow. And Zero's like, kissing Kate Barlow? He was like, yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So anywho, which leads to a flashback of Catherine, who's now going by Kate, and she's robbing all these banks. You see all these dead men who have like kisses on their cheeks because she's killed them, and she's just like an outlaw now, and she's living her best life. women in theft. Women in theft.
Women in theft.
Because how in this time was she able to command a band of outlaws?
Right.
Because she had a crew.
She had a crew.
And she was the leader of men. She was the only woman.
Yeah.
Bless her.
And she is going on a rampage.
Yes.
Just killing and thieving left and right.
Mm-hmm. Good for her. While Stanley is teaching Zero how to read, he's getting smarter every day. And they strike up a deal that, hey, Zero's like, hey, I will dig your holes for you so you won't be tired to teach me. And
yeah, because at this point, while he's teaching him, he's, dug a hole all day, so he's exhausted.
Yeah. And since Zero's so good at digging holes, he's like, you teach me how to read, I'll dig your holes. And they're like, deal. And after they made this deal, Zero's like, my real name isn't Zero. And Stanley's like, it isn't? And I'm like, yeah. It's not Zero.
Why would anybody name their child Zero?
Everyone here has a nickname.
So why wouldn't I have one?
Just like me.
Then Stanley's like, but even Padinsky calls you Zero because Padinsky calls everybody by their government
first name.
Which
is, I guess, thing. Yeah.
He's the only person at the camp who calls everybody by their government names. And since he was calling Zero, he assumed that was his real name. And then Zero reveals
a hater.
that his name is Hector Zeroni.
Dun-dun-dun!
That's where they got Zero because Zeroni, Zeroni, Zeroni.
Oh, I never got that. I thought they called him Zero because he was stupid. Because they thought he was stupid, at least.
Because he's like, my name is Hector Zeroni. He puts emphasis on the Zeroni.
That's actually a really great nickname, Zero.
Yeah.
From Zeroni. So, and then Zero tells him his life story. So basically, him and his mom were homeless, or they used to move house to house, and eventually they became homeless, and eventually his mom would drop him off places or leave him and come back for him, and one day she never came back.
Mm-hmm. And he was just saying that he's missed his mom, and he would hire a whole team of private investigators to find her, just to figure out what happened to her, because he literally has no idea.
Yeah. And this also makes me think about how Stanley is shell-shocked, or these boys here really do have bad lives.
Yeah.
And Stanley did think his life was, he was unlucky, but I feel like he did think his life was so unlucky, but it really was good. He had a family who loved him.
Yeah.
He was just a freaking nerd.
Over his head,
but
a full belly of food.
But look at Zero really has problems. And I feel like every time he talks to Zero, he's shocked to hear someone's living this life. Because even Zero's
he mentions the park or something.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I used to play at that park all the time. He's like, oh yeah, I used to sleep in the little hole next to the swing. And Stanley's like, okay, yeah.
So although Stanley himself is poor, he is poor, but he's loved.
Right. He's got stuff to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And I think
and Zero has nothing to be grateful for. Literally nothing.
And Zero's there basically a ward of the state because he has no one to take care of him. No one to claim him.
Yeah. And he got nowhere else to be.
Which comes up later. But so they're doing this new agreement where Zero digs Stanley's holes, and the boys start to notice this, and of course
they hate him from outside the club.
They are upset, and then they're like, "This is a whole slave situation, basically, because Stanley's white, Zero's black," and they're like, "Oh, you got your little slave digging your holes." Which honestly, if I was there, I'd have thought the same thing. I'm like,
right.
now you got this black boy digging your holes,
and then Stanley's like, "It's not slavery, it's an agreement, guys."
Yeah. You can't say that, Stanley.
I'm not like that.
Let Zero say that.
Right.
Say, oh, the white boy says it's not slavery. It's supposed to leave you.
Like that.
But I will say I actually would be pissed too. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie on it. I would be pissed. I'm like, why is he digging our holes?
I would be annoyed, yeah.
So over time, I guess not much time, but I don't think it's today, but maybe the next day. Zigzag is Stanley's biggest hater. I don't know why he be hating on him.
Oh, I can't stand Zigzag.
I can't stand him.
So Mr. Padinsky is now out. They're digging holes again for the 100th day in a row. Right. And Mrs. Padinsky is giving them their daytime snack and their water. And one of the snacks is graham crackers or something. And Zigzag goes up to Stanley and he's like, hey, if you let me have your graham cracker, I'll dig your hole too, or something like that.
Something like that. Something like that.
And Stanley's like, okay. He ignores him at first. And he's like, Zigzag's like, don't you hear me talking to you? And he's like, okay, I get it. I'll go back to digging my own hole.
Let it be.
You got
gone.
it.
Yeah.
And then Zigzag doesn't let it go. And he's like, he's not going to take the graham cracker. So he takes the graham cracker and shoves it down Stanley's mouth. And then a fight ensues.
And you would think
Padinsky would be like, hey, break it up. And so they have a little tussle, and Padinsky's like, hey, what's going on here? And he's like, well, Stanley, why don't you hit him back?
Honestly, I expect that from Mr. Sir, but I am surprised Miss Dr. Padinsky did say that.
Me too. I was very shocked.
I was very shocked.
He's like, go ahead, Stanley, hit him back. So he's encouraging
them to fight.
This argument, this fight. And then so Stanley hits him back, and then of course a fight ensues. And then Stanley's losing. And of course, Zero will not allow that. Mm-mm. So he intervenes and jumps in, and he hops on the back of Zigzag and begins to choke him.
Bless him.
Literally suffocating him. And
almost passes out.
Yeah, he almost passes out. And that's when Dr. Padinsky is like, okay, that's enough, break it up. So the fight's broken up. Cutscene, now the warden and Dr. Sir have arrived as well.
I'm surprised the warden came for this.
Yeah, I'm surprised she came out for them as well. But they're all out there, the warden, Dr. Sir, and Dr. Padinsky, trying to get to the bottom of what the issue was. Armpit says that Zigzag hit Caveman, and then they started fighting, and then Zero jumped in and started choking Zigzag. And X-Ray chimes in, and he's like, yeah, that's basically what happened. You know, the heat got to Zigzag or something. Oh, yeah. And that's why he hit Caveman, because of the heat. And then the warden is like, is that right, Zigzag? And Zigzag says something to the effect of, yes, because, you know, we're out here outside in the heat working all day digging these holes while Caveman over there does nothing. And the warden is basically like, excuse me? You know what I've noticed?
That's her catchphrase.
Literally, her catchphrase throughout this entire movie is, excuse me? And then, so, Zigzag accuses Caveman of not digging his holes, and the warden says, excuse me? Caveman digs his holes just like the rest of you.
Which is funny. I'm like, okay, now she's sticking up for
Yeah, she was coming to his little defense.
Right.
And then Zigzag was like, well, sometimes. And then someone else interferes and says, Caveman has not been digging his holes, and that Zero has been digging a bunch of rats. Hole. Right, a bunch of snitches. Because when them sunflower seeds went missing,
didn't say a word.
Did Stanley rat?
No.
When that tube of lipstick was found, did Stanley take the credit?
No.
But look how they are so quick. So swift to rat this boy out.
Right. So quick.
I can't stand these boys.
Because they could have just said we fought and we fought. That's all why.
But no, they want to be rats. Snitches. Don't they know they're criminals?
Get it together.
Their garden rule should be don't be a rat.
Pick a lane.
Oh, I'm disgusted.
Pick a lane.
So after they tattletale or whatever, they tell the warden that Caveman has not been digging his holes and that Zero has been digging his holes for some days. And of course, they're all like, what? Mr. Sir is like, you ain't been digging your holes, boy. And
why is no one out there watching them dig these
Caveman, right. And there's no one watching them. There's so many.
Yeah, they just come to bring them water for a little bit and they leave. What if someone fainted?
Literally.
I have to wait for the next 2 hours and y'all come bring us water?
Right.
Jesus.
So, Stanley then reveals that he has been teaching Caveman how to read. And Zero's number one hater, Dr.
in the background,
is like, you been teaching him how to read? He can't read. He's an idiot. He's so dumb. And then he's basically going on and on and on. He's ragging on Zero, and he's basically saying to Stanley, we know you mean well, Stanley, but the boy's just so dumb. He's a waste of brain cells, a waste of oxygen. There's nothing going on in his head. So then...
where does he get that from?
I don't know.
Because he doesn't talk. That's the only thing.
This little boy down.
He's got a hard on for him for whatever reason.
And
let it go.
He turns to Zero, Dr. Padinsky, and asks him, Zero, what does CAT spell? And then Zero goes silent because he doesn't know what it spells. And he's like, see? He's stupid. And then basically the warden's like, look, everybody shut up. Caveman, you're going to go back to digging your individual hole and no more reading lessons. And then Caveman's like, if the hole is getting dug, what is the point? Who shovels it or not?
Character!
And then she was like, because I said so. And then here we go. Dr. Padinsky is back and he's like,
we know you mean well, Stanley, but the mental stress just causes his brain too much of a challenge. That's what made his blood boil, not the hot sun.
I'm not digging any more holes.
Good. I mean, you might as well teach this shovel to read. Go ahead, Zero, take it. It's all you'll ever be good for. D-I-G. What's that spell?
Dig.
And then he takes the shovel and he whacks Dr. Padinsky over the head,
You just got knocked
rendering
up.
him
Ow.
unconscious.
And we're like, oh! And then Zero takes his shovel and he runs off into the desert.
He makes a run for it. After Mr. Sir tries to follow him, he almost pulls out his gun to shoot him, which the warden tells him not to.
Yeah, don't shoot him.
And she was like, the last thing we need is police and lawyers and a case on our hands because we are, in fact, running a slave ship
Right.
here.
We don't know.
The last thing we need to do is get caught for it.
Yeah, if anyone looks a little bit into this, a teeny little bit
We're all going to jail,
baby.
baby. So she's like, don't you dare shoot him.
Yeah.
And then, so she's basically like, I want all surveillance on all the water sources around here. Because they're basically like, it is a desert. He cannot, like Mr. Sir said at the beginning of the movie, you cannot survive out here.
Yeah,
without
you either
water.
die or you're going to come back. That's your two options.
So they're just like, let him go. And everybody else, all the boys, they're like cheering. They're like, yeah, Zero, run. Stanley's like, go, Zero, go.
Mm-hmm. So the counselors go back to D10 or whatever tent they're in, and they're basically discussing how they're going to cover up Zero running away. And Dr. Podolsky,
Whatever that man name is.
of course, he's so obsessed with Zero. He knows that he has no family, that he's basically a ward of the state, that no one's going to come looking for him. All I got to do is to delete his records, and he's basically fallen off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
So
And
no one's going to come looking for him.
Yeah, he reassures her, like, he has no family, he has nobody. Nobody cares about Hector Zeroni.
And technically speaking, he has no friends besides Stanley. Because none of the boys really like him.
Yeah.
He was the last one in the rank.
He was the last one in line. So, but then Stanley walks in, he overhears their conversation, and he's basically like, I care about Zero. And
Which, honestly, if I heard them talking about how they're basically going to cover, like, I wouldn't have said that because literally,
I was like, they're coming for you.
Yeah, I was like, just wait till you get home.
Right.
Tell your mom that this boy went missing.
Why would you reveal to them that your presence is now known?
Yeah, because they're going to get you killed.
Right. They're literally talking about how they're going to wipe this kid off the face of the earth. And here you go emerge and like, hey guys, are you stupid?
Yeah.
But then Dr. Sir, once Stanley walks in, has the nerve to say, if something happens to Zero, his blood is on your hands. He says that to Stanley.
Right.
Literally, if anything happens to him, his blood is on your 3 hands.
Yeah, like, how is that? What's that math there?
What is that?
What's that math?
What's that deduction, that reasoning?
Me? It's on me? That's crazy.
I don't think so.
The Lord knows. Now that Zero's gone, that leaves a spot open, which they freaking fill, which is messed up. Because he hasn't been gone for that long.
Yeah.
Because 2 days maybe. And they already got some boy coming in. His name is Twitch. His specialty is stealing cars. He's a little tiny boy. He's very
a
jittery.
twitch.
Yeah.
He's got a little twitch to him.
They came up with his nickname quickly.
Immediately.
So after another day of digging, Stanley...
That's all we do here.
Yeah. Stanley decides to do something crazy with Twitch at his side. I guess it gave him like the push. I wonder if in the book they discussed this.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. It just seems crazy that the guy with the stealing car. Anywho. Stanley gets behind the wheel of Mr. Sir's truck and while the boys are filling up their canteen and drives away. But unfortunately, he doesn't get far because 1, he probably can't drive, and 2, there's holes everywhere.
There's holes everywhere. So
Literally.
he runs into a hole.
Yes. I'm surprised. Thank God he's okay.
Yes.
Because, these are very... It's like...
These are 6-foot deep holes.
Yeah. He runs the car
into. The airbags deploy and everything.
Yes.
So he runs out of the truck. He makes a run for it. Again, we are met with cheers from the other boys.
Right.
They're like, run, Stanley, run. Why are they encouraging death? I don't know, but...
I guess it's just like, anarchy! Right.
But yeah, so Stanley makes a run for it while Mr. Sir is trying to run after Stanley, but he's old.
Yeah.
And he can't shoot him.
He doesn't really care anymore.
So Stanley is now on the run to find Zero.
Mm-hmm. And back, the counselors are meeting again.
Right. They've got another body on their hands.
And the warden's basically like, let's wait 2 weeks and then report Stanley as a runaway. And by then, he's either dead or like nobody to find
him.
Or like he can't talk.
Mm-hmm.
Which is crazy because I'm like, these boys, one day they're going to grow up and be like, hey, I remember that kid ran away, or like Zero, like
right,
like you're just gonna count on no one ever speaking about these kids ever again. It's so messed up.
Exactly. And so that because
Messed up. So Stanley has been wandering through the desert when he eventually comes to an overturned boat, which is Sam's old boat.
Yes.
Which is very nice. Okay, in the middle of the desert. And he sees like a foot coming out of the boat, and he kicks it, and he's like, hello, and he's afraid that Zero's in there dead. But eventually Zero like puts a hand out. He's like, hey. what's up?
It's Zero.
Yes.
And he's super excited to see him. So he goes underneath the boat with Zero.
Shady.
They embrace. They say, hey, how long have you been out here? Zero's asking him like, hey, do you have any water or anything? Literally, Stanley came empty-handed, and Zero's like pissed.
He didn't have time to fill up his canteen before he stole the truck. He didn't think that one through.
So Stanley,
he probably wouldn't have gotten water anyway. Sorry, for Mr. Sir.
You what?
He probably wouldn't have gotten water anyway, so Mr. Sir, because he hadn't been giving him any water.
That's true. So, Stanley is basically trying to convince Zero, okay, hey, like, we can't survive out here. We have to go back to camp. Look at this boat that we found. Like, the warden will see this. She'll be happy because all she wants to do is find stuff that links her to the treasure. Like, we'll show her this boat. She'll be happy. All will be forgiven. Let's go back. And Zero's like, I'm not going back. And then Stanley emphasizes, we will die out here.
We are deadly.
And Zero's like, what does Mary Lou mean?
Stanley's like, what the fuck?
And Stanley's like, bro, what? He's like, Mary Lou. And he's like, I don't know. But it was... And then so he shows him, he's like, okay, come see. So he shows him the outside of the boat, and outside the boat it said, what is it, Mary Lou?
Yeah, which is Sam's donkey's name.
Yes. So that is the name of Sam's donkey.
I.e. Sam's boat. So cute.
But also in the boat, Zero has been living off of what he calls sploosh, which he lets Stanley try. Mm-hmm. And it is this very old looking container of something, and Stanley mentions that it tastes like peaches. Now, if we remember, throughout our many flashbacks, Sam would exchange his onions for Catherine, who is now kissing Kate Barlow, for her peaches. So
it's funny because I'm pretty sure it's like 100. It's been 100 years or so.
That crap is 100 years old. I'm trying to figure out, what does 100-year-old peaches taste like? It's still good.
I think it had some bacteria. When I was reading the summary, they said like Stanley's internal monologue was like, he took a sip, but he knew he shouldn't be drinking this because it's like bacteria. Like, he's afraid of the bacteria that's been
accumulated.
Yeah, and then Zero's had like 6 jars of it.
Yeah.
And he's concerned. He's like, we really need to go back.
We shouldn't be eating.
Yeah, you're gonna die. Which is also why he gets so sick climbing up the mountain.
Oh.
Because he's been eating those
peaches.
Those diseased, peaches. Old, rotten peaches.
100 years.
100-year-old peaches.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. But, I mean, can't blame him. What else is he gonna eat?
What else is he gonna eat? I would eat it too.
So, I guess while they're outside of the boat, Stanley sees the mountain and he asks Zero, "Hey, does that mountain up there look like a thumb?" And Zero holds up his thumb too, and he's like, "Yeah, it does look like a thumb."
We failed to mention that when Kissing Kate Barlow left Stanley Yelnats' great-great-grandfather stranded in the desert for 14 days after she stole his loot, that he took refuge on what he called God's thumb.
But no one ever knew what he meant.
Yeah. They're like, well, what did he mean by that?
Yeah.
Who knows? He was crazy.
Yeah.
He was left in the desert for 14 days without food and water. Who knows what he was talking about God's thumb?
Yes, but Stanley's having another epiphany. And he's like, well, this must be, I guess in the back of it, he's like, this could be God's thumb that my grandfather was thinking of. It's probably all coming together. Right. Kissing Kate Barlow, God's thumb. It's probably like the lipstick. This has to be what my grandfather was talking about.
Yes.
So they two set off to get to God's thumb, which is the top of this mountain.
When you think of this mountain, think Mount Everest. How
You
do
think?
these...
Like a little cuter, a little tinier.
I mean, it's not Mount Everest, but it might as well have been.
Yeah, might as well
How do these two boys climb up this viciously huge mountain? Like, literally, it's not a hill.
It's a mountain. They were really
It's a
climbing.
mountain.
They were really climbing.
The altitude, the height, it had to be like 2,000 feet.
Just being tired from like no food, no water.
And they climb up this mountain with no equipment. One slip and they're dead.
Oh, yeah.
They was tripping. If I was Zero, I'd have been like, bro, I'm not climbing that thing. We don't have any food or water in our systems.
They can't go back. Zero didn't want to go back.
I guess. So they decide to climb up the mountain, which is crazy to me.
And they are
literally watching them
gives
climb
anxiety.
it up. I could feel my blood like thin. Like, you know how like when you're going on a roller coaster and you have like butterflies in your stomach?
Yeah.
That's how I felt when I was watching them climb that mountain.
It's wild.
It was just so high. Oh God.
Poor things. It's also funny why they didn't go looking for the boys. That's the only way they can go. Like, get in the car and drive that way.
It's just, just put in some effort.
It's not that hard.
It's not that hard.
It's not that you have a car in the desert.
There's nothing they could hide from.
Yeah, you could literally watch on binoculars right there.
Shameful.
It's not that far.
Yeah.
It's not that far. But they're climbing up the mountain. They're getting closer and closer to the big thumb, or God's thumb. And while they're doing this, Zero and Stanley's still trying to teach Zero how to spell and whatnot. And they get to like this really steep part of the mountain that Zero's able to climb up easily, but Stanley has some difficulty to the fact that he almost is about to fall off the mountain. But Zero saves him by like using the shovel to help pull him up. But like he cuts his hands. That scene really bothers me.
Yeah, it bothers me too.
Because he's holding on to the shovel part of the shovel.
Yeah, like the
metal part of the shovel.
Yeah,
and he's hanging on for dear life, and he cuts his hands. I'm like, ouch!
Blisters, and not even blisters, literally gashes.
Yeah, gashes. Ugh. So they continue walking, and eventually, Zero, he falls over in pain and vomits up the sploosh. He faints.
Yeah.
Because he shouldn't have been eating it, and I think it's finally come to a head, and his body's rejecting this disgusting toxicity that he's been putting in his body for the last couple days.
Yeah. So Stanley's like, "Get up, Zero. We gotta keep going. We gotta keep trucking." Zero is not really functional, so Stanley takes Zero, puts him on his back, and he carries him up the mountain.
Ding, 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 ding. You have ended your family's curse. Come on down.
Because Madame Zeroni said, if you do not carry Madame Zeroni up the mountain so that I can get big and strong, you and your family will be cursed for all eternity. Zero's last name is Hector Zeroni.
A descendant.
He is the great-great-great-grandson of Madame Zeroni.
Mm-hmm.
Stanley carries Hector up the mountain and breaks the curse.
You know what's funny?
I want to cry.
It's so sweet.
It's beautiful.
By putting a curse on his family, I feel like she also put a curse on her own family.
Like, low-key, yeah.
Because her family's not doing well either. I feel like the energy she put out into the world, it got to Stanley's family, but it also
it also got back to you, sis.
Yeah. Because it's like, you put out negativity, you get negativity back. Like, seriously.
I'm
like
a firm believer in that.
Their family's not doing well. You could say worse.
Yeah, you honestly tied this curse to not only his family, but also yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I never noticed when I was a child, like, I really didn't notice this until I watched this movie recently, like, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, that the whole time watching the movie, I never knew that the curse was broken when he carries Hector up the mountain.
Okay, right.
Because if you don't watch this movie 100 times, you'll miss it.
So after she carries up the mountain, they drink some water, they eat some onions, and then we cut to Stanley's family.
Son, the curse is instantly broken.
It's instantly broken.
It's crazy how like instant. Once he carries him up the mountain, as soon as he carries up to the top of the mountain, they find water. They find onions. Which important. Sam's onions. That's where Sam's little farm was. Yes. I guess. So they find Sam's onions that kept the lizards away. Remember, the onions kept the lizards away.
And they eat.
And then we cut to Stanley's family, and we're at his little rinky-dink apartment.
Yeah.
And his dad miraculously finds the cure.
He's like making something accidentally falls into it.
Yeah.
Like an onion falls into it by accident because he's like making some type of like concoction over the stove, and it so happens to fall into it. So I mean, placed it on himself. Like something falls, he's like, ugh.
It wasn't even purpose.
Yeah.
And he smells the concoction, and he realizes that he's finally, after all this hard work, has finally found the remedy to what he needs to make shoes smell not stinky. So he presents it to his wife and his father, and he's like, what do you smell? And they're like, I don't smell anything. And he's like, say it again. And they're like,
I don't smell anything.
I don't smell anything. Say it again. I don't smell anything. And he's like,
I don't smell anything. I don't smell
the
anything.
secret? Peaches and onions.
Now that guy, I don't think I ever caught that.
I don't think I ever caught that either.
Peaches and onions.
I don't think I ever heard him say peaches and onions. In the book, though, I read it was just peaches, not onions.
Well, I'm glad they did peaches and onions.
I'm glad they did peaches and onions, too. It's
Love
cute.
it. Yeah.
Sam and Kate.
Love it last.
Love it last. The peaches and the onions.
Yes.
Everything just connects.
Right.
It
full circle.
intertwines. Full circle.
Destiny. So, the next morning, Zero's feeling a little better. And
They're still at the mountain.
Still at the mountain. They're relaxing. They've eaten tins of onions.
Yeah.
And they're chomping on them. And Zero finally gets the courage to confess to Stanley that he was the one that stole the shoes, and he's the reason why Stanley is at Camp Green Lake in the first place.
Yeah, so he basically runs him the story. He was saying how he was at the little foster home or the shelter home, orphanage,
shelter,
whatever, where they were passing out the shoes.
It's like a donation drive.
Yeah, and he was like, they were just shoes. It was a donation thing.
Yeah.
I thought I could just take them, so I took them. And then next thing I know, everybody's going crazy. The shoes are gone, the shoes are gone, the shoes are gone. And so I'm running for my life. Because I hear sirens, I hear the police, so I toss the shoes. And the shoes landed in your lap.
Funny that, because in the scene he has the shoes on. These shoes have to be a size 13.
Like 12.
And there's no way that he's
got to be
more...
4.5.
Yeah, there was no way. I'm like, how is he even walking in these shoes?
Fitting these clown shoes on him.
He's got them on his feet, and he's walking with them. I'm like, oh my God.
He looks ridiculous.
He looks ridiculous.
But, so he reveals that he's the reason why he's in there. And then he says something this is the part that's never made sense to me. Because Zero says, I got booked for something else like a week later. But how was he there before Stanley?
Well, so he got arrested the next day. I guess as opposed to Stanley, whose family kind of hired a lawyer, they threw into the court system. I'm sure when they arrested Stanley, it was like straight off. Okay. He didn't have no people to...
No due process.
Yeah, no due process. He was a ward of the state, and they just set him off.
I guess that makes sense.
But Stanley is not upset to hear this. He's got like an overwhelming fear of like peace, and he's like, this is destiny. This is all supposed to happen. He looks very wise in this moment. He's like,
you know what? He's like, I thought all these things were happening to me because of bad luck and my no good, dirty great grandfather and all of these things. Right. We've been cursed, but he's like, I'm supposed to be here.
I'm supposed to be here. This is supposed to happen.
He's like, this is supposed to happen. And he's like, you know what? I'm feeling lucky. And he's like, you know what, Zero? How you feel about us digging one more hole?
Uno más hole.
And Zero's like, okay. Sure.
So while they're deciding that, we get a cut to back at the camp. Stanley lawyer has arrived, and she wants to talk to Stanley. And the warden and her crew are like, no, you need a warrant, or you need some kind of paper so you can see Stanley. And the lawyer is pissed, but she's like, I'm gonna be back. Yes. And then the warden and her crew are like, what the hell are we gonna do?
Yes.
Because Stanley isn't here, and they have yet to report him.
Right. And now that he's got money, instant money shmoney,
they can
afford a lawyer, and they can actually ask questions to get down to business.
So, and then we get a flashback of Kate Barlow in the middle of...
Kissing Kate Barlow.
Yes. In the middle of the dried up lake. Because this is after Sam's death, and
the lake has dried up once Sam dies.
Yes. And she's having a hallucination about seeing Sam. And she's like, I miss you. I want to be with you. And Kate is brought back to reality by Trout and his wife, and they look dirty and poor and country.
Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
Mm-hmm.
That is from riches to rags. A reverse daddy.
Mm-hmm. And they are holding her at gunpoint.
And also want to point out that his wife, the chick that's with Trout, is one of Catherine's former students, which is disgusting.
Young. And they're asking her to tell them where she hid her loot, because now Trout's family have no money. The town is washed up. They have no assets, and they want the money that probably part of it is probably a bank. She probably stole from one of their banks.
Stole from him at one point.
And they want all her loot from all her findings. I did read from the summary in the book that because she had went back to the town and was living there for like three months, and then they found her and held her by gunpoint and were like, show us the loot, but they like kind of tortured her a little bit. They like tied her up by her like arms and her legs, and they were like beating her kind of, and then she stumbled upon a lizard and got bit, but it's a little different. They left out the torture part.
I did read that. She got bit by a lizard by mistake.
Yeah. You know what's also funny? She's leaning on Sam's boat.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. You think she found it on purpose?
Anywho, so she sees.
So she refuses. Yeah.
They're pointing a gun at her. They're like, where's the loot? And she's like,
you, your children, and your children's children will dig for the next 100 years, and you will never find it.
And she was right. She was literally right.
100 years. It's 100 years.
It's literally been 100 years, and his children's children are, in fact, the warden is looking for the money.
Words have powers.
Yeah, they do.
Everyone's words here are very literal.
Yes. And they literally, she was right. She was like, and they will never find it. And they don't. And then as she's saying that, a little yellow spotted lizard comes up. She takes the lizard and she puts the lizard on her wrist, and the lizard bites her. And I guess she kind of ultimately commits suicide and she dies.
But in a very nice way.
Yeah. She's kind of just like, you know what? I'm ready to be with my man.
Yeah. Which, that was a good flashback because now we're learning about the loot. Because this whole time, we don't really know what they're looking for until right now.
Yeah.
We're looking for the loot. So Stanley and Zero sneak back closer to the camp, and they find the hole where they found the lipstick, because there's a rock there that Stanley remembers. And they begin to dig. And while they're digging, they finally come across the treasure chest of money and loot or whatever. But literally at the exact moment they find it, they hear the warden's voice, and they look up and they see Dr. Podisky, the warden, and Mr. Sir standing around the hole. And they're like, hey, boys. Fancy meeting you here.
Nice to see you all once again.
And also at that exact moment, like, buku lizards come out of nowhere there, and they're like all over the box, all over the boys. Also, where are these lizards coming from?
Leaping lizards.
Are they coming from a hole? They weren't there 5 seconds ago. I'm not really sure where they come from.
Yeah, but
they doesn't make any sense. But
they're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
But the lizards do not bite them.
To the counselors they're very upset to see that they're not getting bitten.
Yes, they're like, as soon as the lizards pop up, they're like, okay, we'll just wait here. In a couple of minutes, the lizards will bite them and they'll die, and then we could go ahead and take
the loot. And then we'll
just
say the boys tried to run off. They fell in the hole and they got bitten.
Yeah,
which should have been a perfect line.
Literally, they're saying in front of them like how the plot of how they intend to murder them and like get away with it in front of them, which is horrible.
Terrible.
And then they're like, they say something about Zero, and they're like, okay, what about Zero? And they're like, and then the one's like, we can put him in any hole. I was like, oh, that's horrible. He's like
very
11.
Horrible.
And you're saying you'll just dump his body in a hole. She was like, we can pick from any of these holes. She was like, ain't nobody gonna miss him. Horrendous. But anywho,
could you imagine burying a child? I don't know. That's messed
disgusting.
Up.
And then to their demise, the boys do not get eaten or bit, by the lizards. Why? Because they have been eating onions for the past day and a half. And the lizards don't like onions. Why? Because Sam, at the beginning of the movie, in his flashback, said, my onion juice will keep the yellow spotted lizards away. And they've been eating onions because that is the cure.
And then while the boys were down there, Dr. Podisky so happily tells Stanley, ha ha ha, you're going to be released and you've been proven innocent, but now you're going to die. Congratulations.
Yeah, ha 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 ha, in your face.
Okay, and then also the warden also mentions that she's so happy and relieved to finally find this treasure, and she tells everyone that her grandfather was also looking for the treasure, and he would make her dig and dig, even on Christmas.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
That's too damn bad! You keep digging!
Well, excuse me.
That's the flashback we get. So that morning, the boys are still alive. And the warden and everyone is very unhappy to see this. I wonder who's watching the boys.
Hours, they literally watch them in the cave, hoping that they'll get bit by.
Who's watching
lizards.
the boys?
Exactly.
There's only three counselors, and no one's watching those.
There
boys.
is no rule or rhyme or reason to this camp.
So the boys are still alive in the hole, and at the same time, the warden sees Stanley's lawyer pulling up in her car in the distance, and the warden's like, I don't know if she sends off to go try to like dissolve that, but anywho, I guess whoever was sent to distract them didn't do a good job, and the lawyer, along with the cop, stumble upon the scene of Zero and Stanley hanging out in a hole surrounded by dangerous, poisonous lizards, and they're like, "What are y'all doing? Like, are y'all
letting these children just sit in this hole with these lizards?"
The cop is like, "How long have they been here?"
The warden, basically, she accuses Stanley of being a thief, and then Stanley is like, "Excuse me, what? A thief?" And he's not having it.
No,
that was a trigger word for him.
Yeah,
and so he hops.
He's probably
out.
been tired of accused of being a thief.
He's tired of this lifestyle, and so he hops out and he's like, "I didn't steal anything." And then Zero, at some point, Zero looks at the chest and is like, "Stanley, isn't Yelnats your first name spelled backwards?" And he's like, "Yeah, it is."
So weird.
And then so Stanley hops out and he's like, "I didn't steal anything." And then Zero hops out and he's like, "Yeah, he didn't steal anything. This is his. It has his name on it." She was like, "This is mine. It was found on my property." And he was like, "It has Stanley's name on it." And she's like, "That's not possible." And then he's like, "Yes, because he can read now."
I don't know if that's enough for me. I'm like, is it technically his? Like, I'm like, could we contest this in court?
I mean, you probably could take it to court, but honestly, regardless, like if you find a missing car I think she was trying to say like, because it was on my property, it's hers. Ma'am, if I lose my car on your property, it doesn't make my car yours.
True.
So my name's on it. Yeah. My name's on that car. My name's on this chest. It's mine, baby.
I feel like, yeah, interesting. I wonder how that goes. Like, who, like, if I find treasure, like, who does this go to?
I mean, his name is on it.
His name is on it.
But Zero's like, it's his. See? Stanley Yelnats.
Which is great that they kept that name name going.
Because if his name was freaking Jonathan,
yeah,
we'd be out of luck.
Yeah.
The lawyer lady's basically like, okay, it's time for us to go. Stanley, grab your things. We're out of here.
Let's
and then Stanley's like, okay, come on, Zero. So then they head back to the camp.
Yeah.
And now
the boys are happy to see that Zero and Stanley are alive. They're like, hey,
they're still alive, guys. Right. So once they get back to the camp,
Stanley's like, the lawyer's like, let's go. And Stanley's like, I'm not leaving without Zero. And the lawyer's like, I really don't like it here. I am ready to go.
And she's like, I can't really do anything for your friend. And then he's like, I'm not leaving without Stanley. She's like, oh, fine. And then so she asks for the file of Hector.
And they're like,
little do, unbeknownst to them, though, the warden and Pazinski and Sir have destroyed his file.
I love seeing Dr. Pazinski's face in that scene. He's like, he thought he was so smart, and he thought he was like, oh yeah, he's nobody. No one's gonna ask for him.
Yeah,
and he just knew that this was gonna work. And his face when she asked for it, he's like, oh. And like him and the warden look at each other,
and she's like, just get it. And he's like, well, what the hell do you want me to get?
Pretend
to get a file. So he goes to get the file. Meanwhile, Armpit goes up to the lawyer and is like, hey, lady, do you have a pen? And she's like, I don't have a pen, but he does, talking about Mr. Sir. And
Sir's like covering his face.
Yeah, he's like covering his face with a clipboard.
He's being very weird.
Yeah, he's being very weird.
It's very quiet.
Yeah, which is very unlike him. So the lawyer's like, hey, Mr. Sir, do you have a pen? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, what about a paper? And he's like, oh, fine. So he hands over the pen and the clipboard that he's using to hide his face. And then as soon as he does that, the cop that is accompanying the lawyer notices Mr. Sir and identifies him as a Marion Silvio,
who is a ex-criminal
and
on parole,
who is violating his parole by having a gun or an armed weapon. And he's been using that gun to not only shoot yellow-spotted lizards, but also at points try to shoot the children.
Yes. And he's also watching children on parole, which I feel like he probably shouldn't doing, being in charge of children.
Correct. So once the cop realizes who he is, he's like, you're in violation of your parole. It's been a long time no see, old friend. So he
I wonder what he
basically, I wonder what he did too. He basically cuffs him up. And the warden was like, oh my goodness, an ex-con, a criminal? I had no idea of this. And then Mr. Sir is like, yeah, sure. Just like you knew that Dr. Pazinski wasn't no doctor. And he's like, cat's out of the bag.
Right.
So,
I missed
revelation
that.
after revelation. Yeah, you don't hear him say that?
No. I was probably writing notes too fast, but yeah.
Yeah, so she was like, he's like, just like how you knew Pazinski wasn't no doctor.
I know. What is he? I wonder.
Right. So at this point, the lawyer's like, ma'am, what kind of camp are you running here? Like, what is going on here?
She's like,
and then she was like, I'm running a good one.
Obviously.
And then basically the cop's like, okay, well, it's obviously that all of you need to be arrested.
Instant investigation.
So they're put in handcuffs.
Yes.
And at that moment, Stanley and the lawyer is basically like, to Stanley, she's like, let's get out of here. It's time for us to go. They take Zero with us, or take Zero with them. And then right before they all get in the car, it begins to rain.
For the first time in 100 years.
For the first time in 100 years, it begins to rain in that dried up, depressing desert. And X-Ray comes out. He says his goodbyes to Stanley. Armpit comes out. They're all saying goodbye to each other. And he's like, take it easy out there in the real world. This is the kicker.
Right.
This is what he said that really got me gooped and gagged. You want to know what he says to Stanley?
What?
He says, not everybody's going to be as nice and friendly to you like we were. He was like, take it easy out there. Come again?
I mean, they were kind of nice.
No.
They were mean to him, but like when it came down to him getting bullied, they were like, whoa, that's our friend.
No, they were horrible. They were horrible.
They could have been worse.
No, they were the worst friends, confidants, peers I've ever seen in my entire life.
They could have been mean to him.
They could also join Mr. Sir, the warden, and Dr. Pazinski.
Oh, no. Maybe X-Ray, but everyone else. And Zigzag.
But they're all basically saying their goodbyes. The boys are like all happy, jumping up and down.
Yes, freedom.
And Stanley and Zero get in the car and they drive off in the sunset.
Yes.
I love that, how he was like, I'm not leaving without him.
Yeah, no. Because he'd be dead.
Zero's like, I'll be fine. He's like, no.
They would have killed him, I think.
Probably.
I think it would have killed him.
It wouldn't have been a safe environment for him to stay.
He would have died. I'm not joking. They would have killed. They would have died.
They arrested them, so.
Oh, yeah.
Had they not have arrested him,
it
wouldn't have been a safe environment for him to stay.
Right.
But cut scene to the next
next scene.
Cut scene to the next scene. We are now at Stanley's house. The grandpa, the dad, the mom, they're all in the kitchen. They're looking over the treasure chest, and they're like, whatever we find in here, we're just gonna agree that this doesn't change us as a family.
LOL.
We still love each other. Why would that change y'all? I don't know. Like, y'all aren't gonna abandon each other. But
more money, more problems.
But whatever. She's like, we're not gonna change as a family. And then Stanley's like, okay, before we begin, it's only fair that whatever is in this trunk, we split half of it with my best friend Hector Zeroni.
Half?
And then the half.
That's a little much. I was like,
half.
I'm like 25%.
Literally. And then the grandpa was like, did you just say your last name was Zeroni? And Zero's like, sure did. And he's like, oh my goodness. So he realizes that he is a descendant of Madame Zeroni. So while they're going through the loot, they find these tickets that are saying, or some kind of check or certificate that's worth
stocks.
Like
old timey stock receipt. Or
like a stock receipt. Yeah, that's what it is. And it's worth $25,000 back then
from AT&T.
Yeah. Is that what it was?
It's AT&T.
Oh, wow. That's hilarious.
That's what they said. Yeah, it was AT&T.
They did say that, from AT&T. So now it's worth like $1 million.
Yes. And there was a couple of them.
Yeah. And there was like 10 of them in there.
And that's the stock market big hit that the great grandfather.
Yeah.
Or Yelnats
struck.
Yeah.
So
Stanley the first.
Now, basically, it all kind of comes together. Cut scene to another scene. And we now see Hector and Stanley. They are now next door neighbors.
You're calling him by his real name. I was like, who the hell is Hector? But yes.
They are now filthy rich, and they're having this like pool party. And now we see the mom run out, and she's like, come on, everybody, it's on. And they all go to the kitchen, and we see a commercial with the
Clyde
Livingston, the man who they accused Stanley of stealing his shoes
Which
from.
I wouldn't want to talk to him.
I was like, who invited him?
Because he was the reason why he went to jail. Like, he should have been like, don't worry about it. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I donated those shoes. I have other shoes y'all can give to him. Don't throw this poor innocent child into jail for stealing something that was technically free.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about it, but he literally testified against Stanley.
Yeah, he was like, you're a terrible person or something.
Yeah, he was like, you're no fan of mine. Send him to jail.
Yes.
And now you're in my parents' commercial. Get out of here. But
Right.
anywho, so Clyde Livingston is at the pool party. I don't know who invited him, but the mom's like, everybody come to the kitchen. So we see a commercial and we see Clyde Livingston. He's talking about, no one wants to sit next to me in the dugout because my feet were so stinky. But now I use sploosh, which is what Stanley called the concoction of
sploosh.
peaches. And that is what the remedy is that Stanley's father came up with, which is peaches and onions to make shoes not smelly.
Tight. And then also, we forgot to mention that Hector, in the end, hires a private investigator.
With all the money that they now have, yeah.
Yes, to find his mom and the two reunite.
Yes, that also happened. And because he spent his whole life looking for her, but she was also looking for him.
Which is, I'm sure, it's so hard to find those court systems.
Yes.
Especially, I'm sure that judge sold him off to that camp.
Yes.
And she got something. And then we also learned that the camp
We learned a lot of things.
was closed. And
it was
that
converted into a girls' camp.
the girls' camp and all the boys were sent to real counselors. And yeah, that was my last part.
And at the girls' camp, they don't have to worry about the yellow spotted lizards as long as they eat onions. And it rains now at the camp or something.
There's a lake. There's officially a lake now.
Yeah, the lake came back or something.
Yeah. And in the end of the movie, they ended off with a nice little group rap song.
Can you play it at the end?
Oh yeah, I will.
Oh great.
I will. Can't do too. I'm always afraid to do too much. I'm like, I don't know what the laws are, but I'll do a little clip.
I don't know what the laws are. Okay, that's fair. But yeah, so all well that ends well. The boys become, well, they were already best friends, but they become next door neighbors, become filthy rich. And that is the story how the great-great-grandson of Stanley Yelnats and the great-great-great-grandson of Madame Zeroni became best friends and next door neighbors.
Wonderful. Their kids should get married.
Yeah, someone should have a boy and someone should have a girl.
Yeah, so lovely.
So anybody who was able to follow along this whole time, kudos to you, because that was doozy.
Yeah, this movie,
it's hard.
It's for adults. I don't know how we were children watching that movie because there's a lot to follow.
Yeah, there's a lot of symbolism.
There's a lot of symbolism.
A lot of you really got to pay attention. The thing with The Rock and him knowing, and we didn't even mention that.
I did. I mentioned The Rock.
I mean, we mentioned it in the beginning, but I don't think we mentioned it when Sin was like, "Oh, I'm feeling lucky." And they're like, let's go back. And he's like, oh, do you think it's right here? And he's like, yeah, because of The Rock. We never mentioned it. Oh, whatever.
Close enough.
But it's even The Rock thing, I was like, who the fuck was ever supposed to know that?
That's right, yeah.
So,
a lot of tiny details.
But yeah, this was fun. If you haven't seen the movie, definitely watch it.
Yeah.
Or if you haven't watched it in a while, definitely watch it now because so many eye-opening moments will happen for you.
Sorry, I'm snoring. Is that the word?
Yes.
No, I'm yawning.
Oh.
I was like, I'm doing something.
yes, that is the word. You're clearly snoring, Jordan.
Okay, guys, I guess we're gonna head out. Our next episode is gonna be a Christmas episode, so tune in. And
like, comment, review, subscribe.
Yes,
download.
Kisses. And I'm gonna go ahead and let Holes play us out. Bye, guys.
Bye. You'll love the song.
Take it on, dig it. Dig it on, dig it on, dig it. Dig it on. Two suits, two tokens in hand. I got no respect cause I'm the new man. Got my shovel, shoes full of sand. Check out the tag, the name's Caveman. Dig it on, dig it. Dig it on. Take a bad boy, make him
5 feet. The dirt in these shovels will give us a beat. Okay, you gotta find something never found before. If not, we'll just have to dig some more. Na 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 na.